Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of excellent and awesome racing in the SimRacing International GTE Championship Season 2 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right folks, after an incredible season opener only a week ago, we are back once again today and we continue the story of the season that continues to celebrate the Grand Touring Endurance class from 1999 through to 2023. But where exactly have we made our way to for this Easter Friday? Well, Good Friday as it's known in full, and I try to be hoping to have a good day, and none other than the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, but normally referred to as the Imola circuit in reference to a local town. Indeed, the circuit that spans the best part of 72 years of history, a circuit that has evolved tremendously over its time. Once an absolutely fast and furious roar straights and sweeping bends with some very heavy braking zones, indeed it could be likened in a way to an equivalent of its neighbour Monza, this circuit has evolved rather drastically over its extensive history into one that's far more technical a test. Particularly after, of course, the rather dark day of motorsport, the dark weekend of motorsport, we should really say, of the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix with the passing of Roland Ratzenberger and also Ayrton Senna. This circuit very quickly went from one of those which is all about high-speed bends to one that's absolutely dominated by chicanes. Whether it be Tamburello, Villeneuve or Alta, this circuit is all about the sprint-stop format, where our drivers will need to sprint from a corner complex to the next braking zone and then be able to master their way through the corners and the rapid-fire direction changes before they're able to come away and go into the next sprint. And with the connecting straights being quite long in some cases, particularly the incredibly long start for this straight, it means that a battle's never too far away, and for our drivers, track position is going to be key, and it all begins with a very good qualifying lap. Take pole position, and you could be in with a very good chance of taking victory, at least a podium. Have a qualifier further down the field, you're going to really get your elbows out and be ready to be bold on the brakes or smart on strategy if you want to come away victorious. But where are my manners? Allow me to formally welcome you to this live broadcast of the circuit side, as you catch all the racing action tonight on YouTube at the one only place you can catch the action, of course, on a weekly basis. Now it's on youtube.com and search for SimRacing International SRI, with all our broadcasts from our series being brought to you live from circuit side or post round, depending on scheduling, on a weekly basis. And why not subscribe today so that we can stay up to date with all of the latest broadcasted action. In the content booth you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh and I shall be your tour guide for the season. Indeed, what a season it's been so far. We've only had one round, but there are plenty of questions around number one that we may have got some answers to, but it's also opened up the door to plenty more questions. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's make our way into recapping what happened in round number one at Sebring last time out, and then start to think about what could be on the order of the cards for round number two here in Italy. So as always, we take a look back to our calendar. On the 27th of March, we got things underway with an incredible round of racing at Sebring International Raceway. There in the US state of Florida for our 1 hour opening race, we got to see our drivers take on the rough and the rugged and also the smooth at the Hendricks Army Air Base. But who exactly impressed the most in terms of victories? Well, in the pro class, the top of our class, you saw Philip Ansell and deliver a lights to flag victory. And whilst it wasn't quite a grand slam, he came incredibly close to leading every single lap of the race, only giving up the lead when he had to come into the pits for strategic reasons, but in the end he really was a step ahead of the field. But just behind him was a brilliant battle for second and third between Wilson Liu and Tom Bland, with Wilson Liu coming home the runner-up in the end, given the fact that Tom Bland picked up a penalty for speeding into the pit lane, but he won't be wanting to do that again here today. But if it was all about them in the pro class in terms of the headlines, what about in the interclass? And we got to see that in the end, Mark Kalsberg was able to take the pole position in qualifying by quite a margin, it must be said. However, when we did go green flag racing, there was a name that completely upset the expectations, and that was Vidas Andruskevicius, where in the end he was able to make sure he made amends from his dismal qualifying performance, and he took the first win of the interclass season ahead of Jan Lintz, with the two of them in the end quite inseparable towards the front of the field, and Kalsberg meanwhile seeking redemption after a difficult start to the race. But there were plenty of other names that looked very impressive last time out, and we'll bring you up to speed with those very shortly. And meanwhile, in the club class, the Evo class that has been renamed to club, so that way we make it sound a little bit more of an accommodated class, because Evo does sound as though you've only got drivers who are looking to evolve and get quicker. That's not necessarily the same. Indeed, you can have some club racers out there who have reached their peak but want to be on the grid for fun, and that's why the Evo class is now known as the club class going forward, so expect that change today. Well, James Bostock finally overcame all the bad luck from season one. Every time he was in a leading position, he saw bad luck striking very hard and saw him retire from the races typically. He finally took his first GTE GTE class win in his SimRacing International history, and in the end he was ahead of just an eye-catching charge from John Becker, who constantly tried to hound him down. But as well, we got to see the front row starters of Brian Beardsworth and Mark Kent have difficulty in the early stage of their races, so therefore they never really got a chance to shine. But it's definitely James Boxstock stays under the sun, and we really enjoyed catching up for a post-round interview afterwards. We were so happy in achieving such a success. But don't forget as well, Drain Hoffman taking a home podium there, the home heroes, and taking his first ever SimRacing International Series podium with third place in the club class, and we look forward to plenty more from them all today as we get ready to go racing. And of course, it's the 3rd of April. We are here for round number 2 of the Imola Grand Prix circuit, and we have our first endurance race round. 90 minutes of racing action awaits today. We've got 3 of these rounds this season, rather than the 2 from what was season 1, and therefore just a little bit extra, an extra 30 minutes, and that's going to open up the strategic variety even more. Although we are still expecting 1 slots to be fair, much like the previous season of 90-minute races, but tyre preservation is going to be key, or if you do need to change your tyres, do you change your 4, or do you only change a couple of them, given the fact, of course, fuel goes in, and then the tyres get changed, and not at the same time. But after this round, we will be heading down under to Australia for the Bathurst Mountain Circuit, and there will be a street circuit from the age of old on the 10th of April. They'll continue the story, but that's in the future. Let's stay in the present right now and introduce our circuit in its full splendour. Because, of course, it's the Grand Prix layout of the Imola circuit, named after the founding father and his son of Ferrari, of course, Enzo Ferrari and Dino Ferrari, where the circuit was originally renamed to the Autodromo Internazionale Dino Ferrari, given that the younger member, Dino, did pass away before his father. However, when Enzo did pass away, the founding father of the prancing horse manufacturer, the circuit was renamed to include both of them there, and they have been staples of history. But regardless of whether you refer to it in its full name or whether you refer to it as Imola, the one thing that always stays the same is that this circuit is located near the town of Imola in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. 3.05 miles in length or 4.9 kilometres depending on your preference units, but regardless there will always be 17 corners, and a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just their brilliant simulator but the absolutely brilliant track maps that are contained within it. And as we can see, this is one of those circuits now where it's about a tantalising technical test. As the drivers roar the way down the start-finish straight with its curves, they'll come through the kink of 1 and into the heavy braking zone for turns 2, 3 and 4 at Tamburello. Then it's going to be left, right, left. Medium speed corners abound as they'll go flat out through turn number 4 and charge out towards Villeneuve chicane at turns 5 and 6. A very tricky chicane where it's about a medium speed entry point. We need to stay as close as possible to the apex on exit to open up turn number 6 by default and get it right, and you may be roaring your way out towards the Tosa hairpin at turn number 7. Now on hard on the brakes, our drivers will go while the lowest speed corners on the circuit, and they'll need to be careful to abuse the camber of the road, but not too much so on exit, because otherwise they'll understeer wide or turty go for a spin. But keep it pointed straight, they'll make their way up the hill to one of the highest points of the circuit, at Piroteo Bend at turn number 8, where it's going to be slightly downhill into the apex and off camber, but get it right, they'll avoid the pesky track limit police, and they'll make their way in towards Acqua Minerale. Then double right and left-hand kink, a very tough combination of corners, and we're expecting plenty of drives, even the very best out there, to potentially lock up and go deep, but get it right, they'll then charge out the hill towards Variante Alta at turns 11 and 12, the third of our chicanes, as they make their way for the lowest speed corners on the circuit, right into left they'll go, bouncing away over the curbs, and they'll need to set their cars up to manage those curbs if they want to get the optimum pace into the final sector, because it's downhill from there for the kink of 13, hard onto the brakes for Avatsa 1 at turn number 14, the downhill left-hand right-angle corner, then gives way to a much flatter right-angled left-hander at turn number 15, Avatsa 2, and then they'll make the way for the kink of 16 and the kink of 17 to complete lap and do it all over again, or to finally see the checker flag. If you're sat there right now wondering why is it we have a turn 16 and a turn 17, well, given the fact the kinks there, particularly turn 16, represents the MotoGP chicane, also known as Variante Bassa, and therefore it is given a number, and to stay consistent, that is why the start-finish line is known as turn 17, because it is right on a corner. But as the drivers get ready to go, they won't be thinking about that, they'll be thinking about glory, and we look forward to seeing who exactly is going to be glorious here at the Imola Grand Prix circuit. Now, we have no championship tables to bring you up to speed with today, so we're going to make our way back to circuit side, but as we do, let's bring you up to speed with the top 3 in each of your championships, because of course it will be based on who finished where the last time out at Sebring. And here is your championship leader right now in the pro category. It is Philip Ansell, and he is currently the fastest provisionally out there in this qualifying session, but my goodness is he quick. The best part there of almost 6/10 faster than anybody else, and currently it's Mark Kalsbear who is the second fastest overall, but he's currently the fastest into driver. But let's focus on the man, the hero of the hour right now, and right now our 3-4-8 driver. Well, in terms of how he took victory last time out, it was lights to flag. He took pole position by what was 1.6 tenths in the end over his teammate from Cuda Motorsport of Isaac Fairweather. However, Isaac Fairweather missed the grid whereas Ansell did not, and therefore there was a slot available in second place. And here's Isaac Fairweather foiling him around right now. They're trying to make it a 1-2 once again, with him currently 6th in this qualifying session, but he goes straight on there, Minerale, and giving proof to the pudding already of the fact that it's very easy to get it wrong there through turns 9 and 10. But Fairweather missed the opportunity to start on the front row, and therefore had to start from the pit lane. So who filled in the gaps then? Well, of course, it was Wilson Liu first and foremost, and then brought home that second place when incredible back and forth battle between himself and Tom Bland. I do believe Liu not here currently today, and therefore may be missing this round, but we hope to see him on the grid for round number 3 if he can't make Imola, because indeed it's not going to be quite the grid without the WePay 300 esports driver, I can tell you that. But meanwhile, is Tom Bland here today? And the answer currently seems to be no. So the two big heroes, not on the grid. So who is your next hero then? Well, the third place finisher in the race after Bland's penalty for the speeding into the pit lane, it was Tim Perry. So one Altitude 3M esports driver lost out, whereas another one gained the place. Albeit you never want to gain it from your teammate, of course. You want to gain it from a rival wherever possible. But Tim Perry, who started in 5th place, he had a very solid race, although he did lose a position at the start to Christophe Dubois on the open lap. He took it back over the course of what was lap number 9, and he tried to chase down that battle between Liu and Bland. He couldn't quite catch up to it, so he really was gifted the third place, you could say, by his teammate having the penalty, the stop and hold penalty, when he made his way into the pit lane. So therefore for Perry here today, as he does have Mark Hutchinson following on around in the Ford GT, so they're trying to work together right now to improve their lap times. Well, Perry's currently the 5th fastest, and Hutchinson meanwhile is currently the 8th fastest there, trying to follow him. But that's your top 3 of the pro class coming into this round. What about in the interclass meanwhile? Well, firstly, we must look to this man, of course, Vidas Andruskevicius, and I must apologise for the fact I did butcher a few names last time out. I've been practising over the course of last week, and hopefully we won't see as much butchering. Indeed, that's my Walshism for you. If Murray Walcott is Murrayisms, well, I've got my Walshisms, and as we do see Andruskevicius make his way up to speed now into the chicane, negotiating quite a bit of traffic there and letting it all go. Well, his story was thus, whereby he started 2nd in the racing class, but he very quickly made his way forward as the race went on. Indeed, it was a very impressive performance, albeit he missed out on pole position by a quarter of a second to Mark Carlsberg. But over the open laps, the instance really benefited him, albeit Carlsberg was not caught up in the open lap instance, but he was in the end having to back off, whereas we saw Andruskevicius not have to back off by comparison, and that was the difference between the two of them. And then subsequently, we got to see that because there was plenty of fighting going on behind, including fighting between Jan Lintz and John Shamblin, it did mean that this man was able to gradually walk away with the interclass win. But who exactly finished 2nd then last time out in interclass? Well, it was none other than Jan Lintz. And where is Jan right now? Here he is in his Corvette for Kazak's racing team. And the 222 driver had the brilliant fight with Shamblin, and he got the upper hand over the race distance. Managed to hold him off right at the end, but the two of them absolutely were ham and tongs all the way through. And given the fact that this man started in 5th place in the class, he was one of the biggest gainers on lap 1 instance, and given the fact that he missed out on 2nd through to 4th in the qualifying category by only a maximum of 2 attempts, it showed you how close it was for the top 5 in qualifying in the interclass, and therefore it does seem as though we've got a very closely matched class here, although Mark Carlsberg right now definitely trying to reassert himself as the favourite in terms of qualifying times, when he's currently the provisional pole sitter here at Imola in the interclass in 3rd overall, and he does have a sizable 4 attempts between himself and Victor Shaboro. For the 3rd place finisher, we mentioned his name, John Shamblin. Where is he exactly right now? We know he's one of the fan favourites out there, and here he is right now, the 248 driver in the WeatherTech racing machine. And I do believe that he and his colleagues from Dynasty Motorsports are now racing as part of Concord Motorsport. The team name has been changed for the remainder of the season, so do keep that in mind. And that applies to John Shamblin, and it also does apply to his 2 teammates, those being none other than Max Chambers and also Oliver Kemp. And a huge thank you to them for letting us know in advance, and we've been able to reflect that on the broadcast for them today. As John Shamblin makes his way around, he enjoyed that battle with Lintz, but couldn't quite get the upper hand, and he took that 3rd place in Inter in the end. But as for your club category, previously known as Evo, but now club, well, Mark Kent is the fastest out there at the moment in his qualifying session, at least provisionally. He's 24th fastest overall, and he does have the best part there of 3 attempts between himself and back into the top 30. But the most critical part is the fact that he does have a further 3 attempts, so 6 attempts in total, to the 2nd fastest man in club class of James Bostock. But here is your winner from race number 1 in the club class. And well, how exactly did his story play out? Many may be wondering, did he dominate qualifying? The answer to that question is is most definitely not. He was third fastest, and well, he didn't have the strongest one-lap pace. It was very interesting to see how his race played out, because on paper at least, he should not have felt comfortable over the race distance. But what we did see right at the start, of course, was with the big lap 1 instance, we saw the front row of Brian Beardsworth and Mark Kent. They were collected in the calamities, and therefore the door opened up for James Bostock. But as the race went on, again, his pace wasn't the strongest over a single lap, and that was reflected by the fact that John Becker very quickly caught up to him on the opening stint. To a point, that's Bostock getting it wrong. They're coming out to toast a hairpin, and that's going to be a toe to the pits there if I've ever seen one, as the GPX SimSport Onyx car definitely will feel as though it's been shunted a little bit. But as he comes on in, well, John Becker's currently here, but he's yet to set a time and yet to get the car out of the pit lanes. We look at Bostock still parked up for a little bit longer, but Becker, as soon as he started to get within 2 to 3 seconds, could not close up. It was almost as if Bostock was managing his pace to that of Becker, although he admitted afterwards in his post-round interview he didn't exactly know where he was, and in the end he was just monitoring his own race and then everybody else do the fighting for him. And that's the problem that Becker had in the end, was the fact he had to spend just as much time battling with other class drivers as he did with club drivers, and that meant he can never quite close Bostock down. But John Becker did take the second place in the end, a very valiant second place, no doubt about it, and we saw a third place in the club class in the end for Dwayne Hoffman, currently parked up in the pit lane as well, waiting to go a little bit later, and as we mentioned earlier on, of the home hero to be on the podium and taking his first ever SimRacing International Series podium at his home circuit at Sebring. The man who grew up in Tampa was absolutely ecstatic about it, and quite an emotional post-round interview there, but we're so pleased for him. So that brings you up to speed with the top 3 in each of our championship categories, excluding the Teams Championship, but we won't be talking about the Teams Championship until after round number 2, so after today, because of course we will be working on the statistics going into round number 3, and we hope to have the Teams Championship stands available by then. If not, it'll be in round number 4, so more on that in a couple of weeks' time, if not next week. But coming back into the present now, and as we do, well, there's a few of you we need to say hello to there in the YouTube chat, including none other than Kitty's Mad, who's having an absolutely good day, and by the sounds of things is trying to avoid eating up the children's Easter eggs there. Of course, if you're a big fan of Easter and the Easter Bunny, you normally do end up buying a few chocolate eggs or some, and well, my personal favourite would happen to be a Malteser Easter egg. If you are wondering, do let us know what your favourite brand of chocolate is in the YouTube chat there, and indeed you can make me hungry. I'm absolutely starving at the moment here in the Conte booth. They do feed me, I can promise you that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just absolutely starving for something else other than food. I'm absolutely starving and wanting to gorge on GTE racing action indeed. They let me out every Friday at SimRacing International, and then they have to put me back for a whole week after that. But as we do see our pole sitter currently flying on around, well, meanwhile, let's look a little bit further down the order to our 14th place runner here of Renee Maurer, and we had a bit of a frustrating day in the office, no doubt about it, the BMW driver, although 10 out of 10 for that livery on that BMW. But right now the Bumblebee machine definitely looking for a bit more today, although he's 11th fastest in the Pro category, and this Pro category absolutely stacked with some top tier drivers, no doubt about it, and all looking very close on pace. We also do say hello there to Bitcoin Satoshi Crypto, and good evening to you, good sir. I do give you a wave in the Conte booth, although we don't have a webcam in here, so you can't quite see it, but you can imagine I'm giving you a wave. And we also do say hello there to Verano Esports official account, and if Kitty's Mad is cheering on the Verano Esports team of Craig, Kev and Mikkel, and also Marcus out there, also Verano Esports cheering on their 4 Verano drivers today. We also do say hello to In Real Life Flyer 7870, who says Coup de Motorsport 123, indeed looking very good at the moment, it must be said. Of course, they do have 2 teams out there, but they're all part of the Coup outfit. Interesting story behind the team essentially being a coup d'etat from a previous sim racing community, and that's how it all started. So a bit funny there how the team name has really carried on, but there is some realism of the team name in relation to how they were formed. And we also do say hello to any of you who haven't said hi in the chat so far. Don't be shy, feel free to say hi. We don't bite here in the YouTube chat, nor at SimRacing International. The only biting you will see, and it'll be very visible when it happens, is the biting of brakes, because you will see a lot of lock-up smoke, because there's no anti-lock braking systems on these GTE machines. But as Flavian Tiffrey does find a little bit of time to improve, now going up to what is 13th overall and a 38.512, and well, that translates there into 4th place in the Interclass. Well, the importance of qualifying here at Imola is quite high. Now, this is one of the circuits, as we mentioned in the build-up to today, as that's Benjamin Massey there having a bit of a mother of all moments by the looks of things, as he does get the car back together. The Inox Motorsport Porsche driver going around, and will get it pointed back in the straight line in the end, but that's a bit of an unconventional one. Can we get a replay of that? I think we might be able to. Hold the phone, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go for a trip back in time. and this was Benjamin Massey making his way through the Tamburello chicane. What exactly happened? Went into turn number 4 and clipped the sausage curve a bit too high, and it unsettled the rear of the car. Slid one way, then slid the other way. I've never seen that before. A driver being able to catch the car as it's sliding back to the road and accidentally pull it towards the barrier instead. To be fair, I think he counter-steered it, but perhaps counter-steered it a bit too much there, and I think he was hoping that the Porsche was going more leftward back towards the tarmac, and understandable there. He did the right thing. He didn't do anything wrong. He was trying to catch the car to make sure it did not clatter into somebody on a flying lap, because he would have gone back onto the racing line. But in the end, just overcorrected it when he could have perhaps powered back on. But still, well done to Ben for being able to recover that car. It's back to your live racing and we go, or live qualifying we should say. As we do come back, we've still got a bit more time in this qualifying session. And, well, with Massey right now struggling down in 27th place. He's the lowest placed of our pro drivers to set time. Well, Wilson Liu has arrived on the scene. The man who's currently second in the Pro Championship. Well, he's got no time to his name. We do have a grand total of 52 drivers in the 10th day. This is going to be a very crowded Imola circuit. And coming back to our big question of how important qualifying is, it is going to be very important when you've got this many cars out here. Now, normally, you will see in the likes of the FIA World Endurance Championship, which visits Imola on a yearly basis, when you do have prototypes as well as GT3 machines out there, this is a circuit that gets very crowded, and that's normally when you have around about 40 cars. Add another 20% to that number, and well, in fact 30% at this point, you can understand it is going to get busy as Wilson Liu immediately on what is that his first flying lap? I believe, no, it's his, I was going to say, that's his first flying lap. It's his first valid lap. That's his full flying lap. He goes second immediately. My goodness, what an impressive lap there from Liu. 3/10 of the pole time, but Ansell right now looking untouchable at the top. But still, Liu really surprising everyone straight away, and that's going to cause Isaac Fairweather to respond, as it will Mark Calsberg and also Pedro Luis da Silva. But coming back to our point, given how crowded the circuit is, it is going to be important to put in a good qualifying lap, because batting around here is going to cost a lot of time, and you've really got to be able to find a bit of a pace advantage over your rivals. Now, at some circuits, to be able to initiate an overtake, you normally need around 2 to 3 attempts over the entire lap to find the opportunity to overtake. Around here, you're going to need around 4 to 5 attempts by comparison, because you've got a lot of heavy braking zones, which we places for lunges, but you've got to outrun your rival to that braking zone. That is the challenge around here, and going too wide through certain corners, such as Acqua Minerale, the sequence you see David Payne going through right here, they are normally not recommended places to go too wide, because of the fact it's only one wide at best. But you'll see some drivers will decide to gamble on it, no doubt about it. Well, we'll pain you while those do so. We'll have to wait and see. But if you don't qualify too well, the thing you can always gamble on is a little bit of strategy. So you can try to undercut your rivals or overcut them. Normally those who qualify a bit higher up the order, they will go for the overcut strategy, which is essentially you stay out and you elongate your first stint, and that will be very valuable, of course, in an endurance race. We've got 90 minutes of racing ahead of us, and Philip Ansell now raises the bar for pole position to a 37.237. That man does not know the word slow, and I applaud him for it, no doubt about it. Although you're looking at on screen at the blazing red-hot carbon ceramic brake disc on the front of Olivier Grenier's car, and right now the 264 driver currently 16th fastest in the Interclass. Well, he seems to be struggling a little bit of qualifying. He is currently the lowest place into driver, but he still, I think, find his feet a little bit. He has put in 16 qualifying laps, but I think he needs a couple more here in order to be able to find a bit of time. Strategy-wise, a good undercut strategy could prove powerful, but the only problem you do have with the undercut around here is unless you're towards the very back of the field and you've yet to have the leaders come up behind you close enough, you are going to come out in some traffic and you may end up fighting drivers who have yet to pit, and that is only going to cost you more time. So a well-timed pit stop could really make or break a race. A poorly timed one could cause one to completely disintegrate by comparison. And we'll have to wait and see who exactly is going to get it right on strategy and who's going to get it wrong. But meanwhile, it would be wrong of us not to say hello to Richard Vars, who says, "What's up, guys? And how are you doing, Paul?" Well, I'm doing very well, thank you, Richard. I hope you're doing well as well. And Richard, of course, tuned in on a regular basis in Season 1, cheering on at the time, Pinto Sombo Levente. Indeed, one of the big heroes of our then Evo class, if you will, although I do believe it was named the Interclass back then, if I remember my class names correctly. They have changed quite recently. You have to bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. But indeed, he was one of the stars in that category over the course of the season. Wasn't the champion, but he definitely picked up some rather memorable wins, and indeed remembered for them fondly so. But as we come towards now the final 7.5 minutes of qualifying, it has been a 45-minute session, and we're almost complete. Well, one thing that we need to complete a qualifying session with would be an on-board lap, of course. But who exactly are we going to get a lap with today? And the answer to that question is going to come to us very soon, because I do believe we are going to be looking on board with one of our pros, getting ready to go on to a lap. And in fact, I think we might be going a little bit further down. In fact, we go to Max Chambers as he goes onto a flying lap here of the Imola Grand Prix circuit. So making his way down the start-finish straight. A bit crowded there. Car parked up on the apex. Oh, goodness me, that's not good at all. And, well, that's getting an aborted lap. And I believe, am I mistaken, but I think that's one of Chambers' teammates there. And that is a huge moment into turn number one. Several cars being caught up together. And Chambers will go back to the pit lane. But that was a nasty one there. And, well, unfortunately for him, that lap has come to a stop before we've even got through turn number one. And that goes to show you how busy this circuit is right now. Several drivers will be absolutely fuming about that one. We'll talk about it after the race, to be fair. And, of course, stewarding is in effect, not live stewarding, post-race stewarding for qualifying and also the race itself. So therefore, if there's any unsafe actions in qualifying, they'll likely be reported by drivers and they'll be encouraged to do so. But that was definitely a bit of a contentious one there. Not quite exactly sure who did what, but I can tell you one thing. There been a bit of mistiming, a bit of miscommunication between all three drivers in that situation, and what's very easy to happen. This Imola circuit, it's quite wide, but not that wide. But meanwhile, who can we get on board with now? Well, I think we are going to be going to the triple three in the pro category. 8 for the pros currently, 9th overall. It's Ariane Cassidy as he makes his way down the start finish straight, and on board is Porsche 911 RSR we go as he makes his way onto another flying lap. So going past the timeline through turn 17 and now formally onto a new lap as he comes through the kink of one. Clear road up ahead for the most part and now breaking his way in towards Tamburello. Brakes 150 metres from corner apex all the way down from top gear to third. Left into right here and now feed the throttle. Go full throttle here through turn number 4. Clip the curb, don't take the sausage. And as he makes one out car off the road there, that is going to be Gavin Corby getting it wrong. And now going in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Left into right he goes. And as he weaves his way through turns 5 and 6, you'll notice there, kept it nice and tight on the exit of 5 to open up 6. And now up towards Toaster at 7. Braking about 150 metres from corner apex down to second gear, load up the rear right tyre and then squirt the throttle, full throttle all the way now, and that's how you get the car to settle down, it being mid-engine rear wheel drive. Coming up the hill and in towards Piratella, car on the left steps aside, and well, he'll be grateful there for the clear roads. He comes to the off-camber left-hander, medium speed, third gear, and now down the hill he comes towards Aqua Minerale. Here it's about a dab of the throttle, a dab of the brakes I should say, to get the nose pin down, and now in towards turn number 10 he goes, drops to second gear on the approach to the apex, and as quick as that he's making his way up towards the auto chicane. Now over to the left-hand side here, looks at his brake marker. It will be just before the 50-metre board, braking about 80 metres from apex. Goes through the chicane there, goes a little bit deeper the first apex, but I think he's got the car set up not to hit that curb. And a lovely run on the exit of the chicane, and now down the hill he comes. Got a little bit of road traffic in front of him. He should be okay as he comes through the kink of 13. And immediately he straightens the steering wheel, it's onto the brakes. 170 metres from corner apex, down to second gear, through the left-hander Ravazza 1, in towards Ravazza 2. A little bit of oversteer there as he cleared the corner, but he corrects it out. But that will not help him, and as he makes his way towards the line, what's it going to be this time for Ryan Casti as he roars his way onwards? Does he improve this time around or not? And the answer is going to be as he crosses that time line. Well, it does look as though he's been improving, and in the end he does not improve enough as he comes on through, and that is going to see him stay in 9th place instead. But still, he's definitely chasing down some more time. He was 2 tenths off there, and this circuit right now seems to be giving time for those who can find it, but it's not naturally offering up time. But the fastest driver currently in the club class is Mark Kenton's BMW M8, and well, the beastly German machine being piloted by the British driver at the moment, and the full tilt virtual motorsport driver here definitely in a bit of a category of his own, when he does have a comfortable gap of the best part there of 9 places between himself and the second place club driver James Bostock. But then again, we have seen gaps like this before in qualifying. Indeed, you only had to look to season 1, whereby we saw in our second of our classes, of course, was some actually dominant qualifying performances from Angel Ordonez, only in the end for it all to go wrong in the race. It does not mean just because you're on pole you are guaranteed a victory in a race, that is for certain, although you're setting yourself up for as much success as possible. But Joris Petersveen makes his way across the timeline. As he does, he improves to 8th place of 38.044, and the GPX SimSport Onyx driver here, he has joined the team. He's gone from being a privateer to the team for the rest of this season, and we wish him all the best luck in joining the GPX SimSport team. And also we must give a similar shout out there to none other than Clyde Vella, who has gone from being a privateer to joining GPX SimSport Vertex. So we do have 3 GPX SimSport teams out there, and they have been fully loaded with plenty of drivers up and down the grid, and wish them all the best luck, like all of our teams out there. Otherwise, we've had no other team changes other than the changes we have mentioned, and we have got no class changes coming in to this round. But a few more drivers still out there right now going for better times. Ryan Cassidy comes across the timeline. Middle sector was really good. He's getting quicker, but right now he's still struggling to beat his personal best. He was half a tenth off his previous best that time round, and he seems to slow down there coming into turn one. I think he's giving it everything. He's got nothing left to give. And understanding as a driver, at that point, you do need to stop. You can't keep pushing, so you'll just simply break yourself mentally before you're due to go racing. Meanwhile, Mark Kelsburn is currently going even quicker at 37.910, aided to a degree by the slipstream there of, I believe, his teammate, Philip Ansell. And right now, that is going to give him plenty of confidence that he will be your interclass pole sitter. But meanwhile, if it's all going well for him, who's it not going well for? Well, Gianluca Rospo, right now down in 45th place, 10th of your club drivers. And I do know we have quite a few fans of this man. And, well, your 1-2-2 driver right now, not looking as strong as he did in qualifying at Sebring. But to be fair, this is a very different style of circuit. Plenty of elevation change, plenty of corner complexes in very close sequence. A lot of very rapid-fire direction changes. It's not really something you feel comfortable with as a driver compared to a much more open and free-flowing circuit like Sebring, whereby the corners can be taken in isolation, bar a couple of small corner complexes. But here it really is collections of corners and then straight, a very different nature and style of circuit on the European continent. But as Rosberg comes on down, he's managed to get ahead of Ivan Hauptke, who is only, by comparison, a 10th behind. And those two had some battling last time out, so expect plenty more from them, with Andrew Fellows, Max Dean and Gavin Corby being the last of the valid qualifiers. Yet to actually put a lap time on the board, Dwayne Hoffman, Craig Tillotson, and also John Becker. And Becker's the biggest surprise of them all. He has got no time. The man who finished second last time out in the club class. As we look to Marcus Clayton, meanwhile, who will just be hoping that today's race will be without incident, because he was quite impressive in the race, but incidents found him in the end. He's currently 7th fastest in the club class. But looking back up the road to Chad Henson, the Turbo Motorsport driver, or the Turbo Rennsport driver, we should say. And he makes his way out of Piratella, currently down in 27th place. But to be fair, if I know Chad, he'll be enjoying himself regardless of where he's qualifying right now. But I think he'll be a little bit disappointed in the fact that he's not quite up inside the top 20 as a pro driver. But then again, he's got work to do by looks of things. And Benjamin Massey the same, not too far behind on the road. Here is Massey for Inox Motorsport, of course, our champion for what is now the Interclass from last season. Well, that step up to pro definitely has been a huge step, and right now he's planning to step it up as time goes on. Quanley 2 as well, down in 15th place in the Interclass. That's a bit of a shock there for the WePay 300 esports driver. We'd expect him to be inside the top 10 based on his performances, so he's got a little bit more work to find out there. But still, time to be found, as Jaden Innes has found some time right at the end of the session. He goes to second place in the club class in that previous lap. Well done to him. That's put him ahead of James Bostock. The two of them separated by Olivier Granier. And meanwhile, as this qualifying session sees the checkered flag come out, well, our drivers who are on laps will now need to complete them. And I do believe the last driver to go onto a lap, although he's not going to complete it, it'll be Wilson Liu as he decides to park up. Jan Lintz is out in one at the moment. He's trying to pick up the toes. We see a flash of the headlights there from a car behind. Lintz steps aside. And meanwhile, I wonder which car that was. Was that Kevin Smith? Yes, it was. There's the Rhino Esports driver. He's currently 12th fastest of the Interclass. And, well, he's openly admitted the fact he's been looking forward to driving the Interclass, but he knows it's going to be an uphill battle, given how strong he was in the now club class last season. Indeed, in Evo, when he did arrive midway through season one, a lot of drivers were raising question marks as to how many points he would be stealing away from the championship fight. But to be fair, he was in the correct class at the time, but he stepped up today. But he won't be stepping up any further when he goes wide there at turn number 8. But a few cars coming to a line. No more improvements as Max Chambers parks up. David Payne slides out to chicane. And right now we are waiting for the last couple of laps to come on in. Who exactly has got a lap left to go? And, well, we do look to none other than Mikhail Salkuni. And, well, as he makes his way towards the timeline right now in the wonderful BMW for Rhino Esports. He's 43rd currently. Does he improve? His previous best was a 40.305. He does not. He'll stay 8th in the club class. So good qualifying lap. His best qualifying performance of the season so far. But he's got a bit more work to go. And that seems to be qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think anybody else is on lap, as Quanley 2 will complete his session. He's down in 37th at the moment, but jumps to 34. So he leaves it late in the day at 39.402. He does find a little bit more time out there. Benjamin Massey as well stays 28th, but did find a 39.173 on his final lap. So there was time still to be found by both of them. Well done to them. Although I think Massey here right now on a cool down lap, unless I'm mistaken. We are just double checking the facts on that one. I think so. He comes to line, but that is not going to be a classified lap as far as I'm aware. And that is going to be qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. But what a session as he cools them down. The circuit does go quiet. Well, in the end, it has been. Philip Ansell has taken overall pole position once again like at Sebring. But here today, taking it by almost 4 attempts over Wilson Liu and Isaac Fairweather and Christophe de Boll line up on row number 2. Mark Kalsberg will stay on 5th place overall, but that will be your Interpole sit-up with Jan Lintz, second the Inters in 11th, just ahead of Victor Shimura and Flavien Thierry. And meanwhile, you must go down to 26th place in order to find your club pole sitter of Mark Kent. And he has been able to out-qualify Jaden Innes in the end by a margin totaling the best part of what has been none other than 2 attempts. And Jaden Innes in turn has been able to outfox James Bostock to the tune of half a second for the top 3 of the club class. But as we transition now into the 5-minute warm-up session, indeed, this is a perfect opportunity for our drivers to take a bit of a breather, and if needed, go get themselves a drink, or to take that all-important bath break. You name it, they go do it. The bathroom break, I should point out, they're not going to be getting into the bathtub in the space of 5 minutes and getting out of it. So I definitely love to know their secrets, how they quickly clean themselves in that regard. But indeed, that's a bit of a hygienic question. As Pedro Lee De Silva makes it out the pit lane, and the GPX Simsport Xenon driver right now, looking as though he's here to have a fun day today, the 355 driver, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do. But as we also do say hello to Braves Pat there and cheering on Oliver, and says drives on the left side of the road at home but passes on either side of the track. I absolutely love that, to be fair, and indeed that's an absolutely brilliant saying. I love that, Braves, and good to have you with us. I hope you do well, good sir. And well, as all drivers weave and wind their way through, well, we've definitely seen some big highlights already in this qualifying session, and perhaps the biggest surprise of them all, or perhaps not a surprise, Philip Ansell taking pole. But the fact he took pole by almost 4 attempts in, that is a huge shocker for the grid. And well, also another shocker in the fact we don't have Mirko Bortolotti with us for this round. Now, he was on the grid for Sebring, but he retired on the open lap after the car went sideways out of turn 4 into 5. At that point, there was damage to the car and he couldn't quite get it back out there. And unfortunately, the champion from last season's, what is now the Pro class, previously the Elite class, not on the grid for this round. So that opens up a bit of a doorway there, but we expect plenty of battling either way. But as we do see it, Cooper Flyer there saying a big up coup. All drivers in top 6 in class and 2 poles. And indeed looking very quick, it must be said. And we also say hello to Daryl R1W, who says, let's go Jordan, in reference to John Shamblin. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you do have 3 minutes. Of course, after these 3 minutes are up, we will be making our way to the grid, as we do look to the man who's getting a lot of fan shout-outs there. And was the Concorde Motorsport driver weaves his way through the auto chicane. Well, he definitely had a bit of a solid qualifying points, but he's got a lot to still do in the race if he wants to try and take victory in the class today. And then again, I think another podium would make him proud. Anything beyond that, put even bigger grin on his face, if I know Jordan. We do look to Victor Shimura. He was very impressive in qualifying as well. The privateer back once again. It's great to see the Inosis Esports team on the grid for this season. We didn't think they were coming back, not because they didn't want to, but the fact they've got so much going on. Indeed, if you follow Inosis Esports on X, now previously known as Twitter, and that's how I prefer it, but making sure we don't get things confused, you'll find they're pretty much racing every series they can and every iRacing official special event they can. And Victor here today, good to see the 269 driver in the interclass, and looking forward to see what he's going to do in the proud red and black machine. But coming on down here in towards Ravazza, we look a little bit further around the field, and we do look to John Becker. Did not take part in qualifying, the Valent Racing Team driver. However, did in the end get the car in place, and we're just double checking in with race control. And as he makes his way on around, well, did he have anything to do with stewarding, perhaps? And the answer is no. There were no penalties from the season opener. So Becker in the end missing qualifying, or missing the opportunity to get a lap together. And the Dutchman starting all the way from the back of the grid. Well, that's not ideal for him, to be fair. He's got a lot of work to do, but we're going to see what he's going to be able to do. As we also look to Wilson Liu, who we're finding out turned up to the practice session a bit too late, and in the end managed to just get into qualifying at the last possible minute. Well, to be fair, for a last minute qualifying, did very well to put himself towards the top 10 of the field. So the We Pay for 100 Esports driver now knows he's got even more work to do, and that's why he's out on circuit pumping in laps in this warm-up session. He wants to get himself as warmed up as quickly as possible. We do look to Craig Tillotson at Liverana Esports with Edge Overlays driver, and well, not getting the strongest of qualifying laps in, but to be fair, we know he's one of those drivers who's normally all about the race. Qualifying, don't really talk to him about qualifying. He's not the strongest qualifying driver, but he is a good race driver, and he does normally make his way gradually up through the field. As others drop, he will rise, and indeed, he's one of those drivers who is very respectful and doesn't normally get involved in too many incidents, and that's how he gains places, albeit turns in a little bit too early there for turn 13, and I think they're just finding the steering being a little bit overreactive. Might need to adjust the setup very briefly. Of course, you can adjust the steering reactivity of these cars, and the Ferrari 488 Evo GTE having a very sensitive steering rack compared to the other cars, much like its GT3 equivalent at the time, the Ferrari 488 Evo GT3, whereby small adjustments to the steering, about 10 degrees left and right, actually did not really change the steering of the car. Had a bit of a dead zone, and then suddenly, as soon as, in fact, I think it was 5 degrees either way, and then suddenly, as soon as you go beyond that, the steering really comes unlocked very quickly, as was commented on by a few drivers who raced it in real life and then took to the simulator, something that was modelled in iRacing directly. But as John Becker makes his way on around, indeed all these drivers do, well, these laps will be worth nothing other than a little bit of brownie points and also a little bit of practice time, because as we do see Pedro Lees de Silva, he set the time tower light in the warm-up practice session, but many a driver opted not to do so. Well, hopefully we see every driver make the way to the grid, and that might be a slight nod towards what happened to Isaac Fairweather last time out, because we want to see them all out there for our 52-car grid, because without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our one and only race here, and with it, our first endurance race of the season. 90 minutes of racing awaits us here at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari, but who exactly is going to come away victorious across our classes in round number 2 of the GTE Championship? It's about time to find out as we head to the grid. So as our drivers make the way onto the grid, they sell their lineup for our one and only race today. And it's going to be Philip Ansell, who takes pole position there for Coup de Motorsport. He'll be joined on the front row of the grid by none other than We Pay 300 Esports' Wilson Liu, who was late to qualifying, but to be fair, not late to line up on the front row. It's then going to be a further 10th back to Isaac Fairweather, Coup de Motorsport, ahead of Live Sim Racing's Christophe Dubois. Then on row number 3, it's going to be your Interpol sitter of Mark Carlsberg for Coup de Academy, ahead of GPX SimSport Zenon's Pedro Lees de Silva. Tim Perry begins the day 7th for Altitude 3M Esports, head of GPX SimSport Zenon's Joris Peters Veem, with Rian Casadilla for Team Endurotech and Mark Hutchinson for Altitude 3M Esports completing that top 10. Outside the top 10 is Jan Lins in 11th place for Gazix Racing Team, ahead of Victor Chamorro, followed by Flavian Tiefri for Valent Racing Team, and there'll be none other than Aramas Zelinskas for SRB Motorsport by Lint Vega. Victor will then also be Vidas Andrus Kevicius, starting 15th for SRB Motorsport, ahead of Renee Maurer, and that's your top 8 rows. Behind the line by Esports driver, it'll then be Max Wheeler for Free Wheeler Racing, ahead of Davidas Laminonis, the SRB Motorsport by Lint Vega driver, being followed up by David Payne for Coup de Academy, and Kai Hitchler does not take to the grid. He was going to start 20th, but he will now be starting from the pit lane. 21st is going to be Sebastian Schwerdtweger, the privateer ahead of Gazix Racing Team's Christian Ablasser. Max Chambers starts today 23rd for Concord Motorsport, ahead of Oliver Kemp I should say, for Concord Motorsport, and then we do have Taus Vosberg starting 25th. The SRB Motorsport drive will be followed up by your club pole sitter of Mark Kemp for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, and then it's going to be Chad Henson for Turbo Rennsport 27th, ahead of Benjamin Massey. By Inox Motorsport drive, it'll be John Lubrit for GPX SimSport Xenon, ahead of Robin Noel Brown for the sister Vertex team, and then starting 31st, it is Jordan Shamlin for Concord Motorsport, ahead of second place club starter of Cuda Motorsport's Jaden Innes. Kevin Smith starts 33rd, ahead of Quan Lee 2, and then we do see Just Noel starting in 35th, ahead of Olivia Granier. Live Sim Racing drive will be followed up by James Bostock, with Patrick Dane joining on row 19, and completing your top 40 will be Nathan Healy for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, and there'll be Brian Beardworth in 40th place. Outside the top 40, in 41st, it's Gareth Newton, just ahead of Marcus Clayton. And then we will see Mikhail Salcuni starting 43rd, ahead of none other than what be Michael Massey. In fact, Matthew Massey, I should say that. Let's get that right. And then we will see behind him Gianluca Rospo, ahead of Ivan Hupka. And then we will see 47th. It'll be Andrew Fellows ahead of Max Dean, with Gavin Corby 49th ahead of John Becker. And on the final row of the grid, ladies and gentlemen, it'll be Dwayne Hoffman and Craig Tillotson. Now, we have had to whistle-stop to our way through that grid because this formation lap is almost complete already. We do apologise for that, but indeed the field itching to go racing, and we're itching to see them go racing. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's over to Philip Ansell to take us away for 90 minutes of racing action here in round number 2 of the SimRacing International GTE Championship Season 2 on iRacing. and it's lights out. Away we go for our second race of the season as the field tours its way away down towards turn number 2, and as they do, the scream of GTE engines rips its way in towards Tamburello. Wilson the U there lose now to the start as Isaac Fairweather tries to make the move on him, but Fairweather comes back. 2 wide, they all go through. Mark Carlsberg right there being forced backwards by Christophe Tabar, but as all the field now skips its way through the Tamburello chicane. Jan Lintz having a good start, getting up the inside of Aramas Zelinskas for a brief moment, but Flavien Tieffry comes back in now. Tieffry trying to take the place. They're side by side in towards the chicane of Villeneuve, but Tieffry there can't find second place in the interclass right now. Further back, Mark Kent still leading the club class there. Good start from him in 22nd place at the moment. Back behind, Max Chambers fighting with Chad Henson as they all head into the braking zone here in towards Tozer. 3 wide, Henson locks up, and that's going to take all 3 of them wide in the end, and Misfortune strikes Benjamin Massey the most there as Massey goes to rejoin, but it's all too late. He's going to drop down the order, and right now to deal with the fact he's bringing gravel on and plenty of drivers are coming with him. As we look further down the order there, we do see plenty of battling going on in the club cars. That's going to be John Becker, who's already made up 4 places since the start of the race. He's got Dwayne Hoffman and Gavin Corby behind him. So great start from Becker. Remember, he's going for a last to first challenge here in the club class. We look forward to seeing what he can do as they all head on through. Well, meanwhile, back to the front of the field. And right now it's the Cuda Motorsport pair of Ansell and Fairweather. They are starting to bolt away already as Wilson the U, where he was absolutely hugging Ansell's car when we went green flag racing. Understandably so. He wanted to be able to time his start exactly to when Ansell went green. But then Isaac Fairweather got the better start of the top 3, and that's how he was able to jump into second place. But behind Tim Perry here, looking around the outside of what will be Carlsberg, and then he's able to get that move done for 6th place, and the Inter-leader tries to come back from here. 2 by 2 coming out of Ramatsa 2, and just behind Joris Peters and Rian Cassidy are battling for position as the GPX Simsport Xenon driver. Now as Mark Hutchinson squeezes them through, here comes the Ford GT. It takes 1, can it take 2? Here is it powers its way onto lap number 2. He's got the toe there of Carlsberg right in front of him. I think he's going to try and part the seas. They come down. You can see the Altitude 3M Esports drivers trying to figure out where exactly to place themselves, as right now Tim Perry has to go defence. He's trying to give Hutchinson every opportunity to squeeze his way through. That's not going to work, as meanwhile Rian Cassidy right now falls behind, and then he has to give up a little bit of space. There's such close racing between these guys. They headed towards Villeneuve, and meanwhile now Aramas Zelenkas is going to try and find his way in as well, but the SRB Motorsport by Lint Vega driver goes a bit too deep. He runs wide there. Villeneuve at turn number 6. That's going to open up the door as Victor Shimura now tries to get involved in his BMW, well not the BMW, in his Corvette there, as Davidas Lorenonis is right in front, and meanwhile a bit of a run wide from Cassidy. He goes wide at Tosa. That's going to cost him time. The Team Endurotech driver right now from Ireland will right now definitely feel as though he's lost a little bit of too much time and run his way in towards Piratello. What a brilliant battle between all these drivers. Inter and Pro drivers absolutely each other's throats, but that's what we love to see on the circuit. But meanwhile, coming back to John Becker, who's trying to pick up another place here, trying to look his way past Andrew Fellows. Hasn't got the run up the hill here in the battle of the 2 Porsches. And meanwhile, just behind, we do see Dwayne Hoffman and Robin Noel Brown going side by side. And Noel Brown in his Ferrari 488 Eva trying to go around the outside of the BMW driver, but that's not going to quite work. As meanwhile, Kai Hitchler following on behind there versus Patrick Dean, and will the wonderful yellow and black BMW, the Leopard Esports driver who started from the pit lane due to a technical issue on the grid, and unfortunately it does mean all his hard work in qualifying was completely usurped. But meanwhile, Benjamin Massey just in front. He's trying to recover his way out through the field. He's just past Gareth Newton. His next target is Mikhail Salkuni, and with the Inox Motorsport driver trying to make headway. But meanwhile, to the front of the field we go, and after 2 laps of racing, this is a rundown of your top 10 overall. It's Philip Ansell and Isaac Fairweather, the 2 Cougar Motorsport drivers. We're trying to work together here to bolt away. Wilson U is then in 3rd, 7 tenths behind. Then it's Christophe Tabar in 4th, ahead of Pedro Luis de Silva in 5th. Tim Perry, the man on your screen, currently in 6th, but Joris Peters dives up the inside there, and Mark Carlsberg, the inter-leader right now, still fighting with his peers in the pro class. And well, I can tell you one thing. Right now, I think that Mark's been given the order from the team, from Cuda Academy and Cuda Motorsport, to say try and hold him up as long as you can, which he's legally allowed to fight them, to be fair, as long as he's not driving dangerously. But some would say right now, why is he fighting when he's the inter-leader? Well, there's also another motive here, and that's that whilst he's now in 8th place overall, Mark Hutchinson and Davidas Lorionis behind, round off your top 10, we then have Rian Cassidy, who is best of the rest, in 11th. But then, most importantly, Victor Shimura is currently 12th place, and the privateer high right now is trying to chase him down, with Jan Lintz behind as well. So right now we can see the Inosis Esports privateer, 2nd of your inter drivers. He's actually been able to close a bit of the gap there to Mark Carlsberg, and he'll be hoping that he can continue that momentum with Jan Lintz coming through, but not like that, as Jan Lintz goes deep at Aqua Minerale, and the Gazex Racing Team driver will rejoin. That's going to be a yellow flag there. And that'll be an automated slowdown penalty he's going to have to serve. And he's going to lose out to Flavian Tiefri, who gets on through. But does Zelinskas also find a way in? No, he does not. Meanwhile, because that's Vidas Andruskevicius. And will the SLB Motorsport driver Indian will squeeze around Jan Lintz. And he'll get the move done there for fourth place in the Interclass. So good bit of opportunism there for the Lithuanian driver. Your winner, of course, from Sebring in the Interclass. And now he's got a bit more to do as Max Wheeler, well, to be fair to the freewheeler racing driver in a BMW sponsored by Audi, well, right now doing everything he can in the Chrome machine to move forward. He's had a really good start to this race. He's gained some places and now he's going back on the attack. Now we do have a black flag for Max Chambers. Now I believe that is for instant points that have been picked up. So Chambers' race is going backwards. He's got a drive-through penalty that he's currently serving. Let's look at my Conte booth window, but let's go dropping all the way into the back of the field. Because everyone does go down the order. Meanwhile, we do look to Olivier Grenier chasing after Marcus Clayton. Albeit right now, he's going to feel a bit of an odd one out here because he's the Inter driver in amongst all of the club drivers. Albeit picking up a bit of pace here. And we'll look at the inside of the kink of one versus Clayton. Now I think Clayton's going to play the game. We'll just let this go. If I had to guess, the Frenchman goes up the inside and Clayton in the end lets it go. But not before Matthew Massey gets quite close there under braking. And we look back from the rear of the Verano Esport with Edge Overlays car. Currently running 6th in the club class. But still got a lot more work to do. Remember, this is only the opening 6 minutes we've seen of a 90-minute race plus a final lap. So there's plenty of time still to go in this race. And indeed, there's going to be plenty of excitement as time goes on. As he heads in towards the Tosa hairpin, he's got Massey, Fellows, Becker and Innes all behind him there. And with all these drivers close together still, a bit further back, we have got Jaden Innes battling here with none other than Kai Hitchler. Albeit Hitchler is going to get ahead there in his BMW. Sneaks ahead, does the pro driver. That's another tick in the box there for Hitchler now to 38th place, having started from 52nd. So Hitchler is picking up those places. Oh, this is getting a little bit crowded. This is Max Steen in the Ford GT, finding himself surrounded there. John Ludbrook trying to part the seas, does so. And it's the battle of two Maxes because Max Chambers, the pro driver, now wants his way through in towards Aqua Minerale. He's not going to go for it here, surely. Definitely not. And, well, meanwhile, Ivan Hupka. Oh, that's sideways there for the Slovenian driver. And the privateer bounced off the curb at turn number 9. That went more sideways than straight on a narrow day. And in the end, Garen Corbin, Dwayne Hoffman will squeeze on through. And, well, for Hupka, that is a very unfortunate moment for him. And now he's got to pick up the pieces and go once again. With the 120 driver there, I think, bounced off of the curb at turn number 9. Unfortunately, the BMW, I think the bump stops in that car haven't been set correctly to hit those curbs that high, and therefore that's what caused the suspension to rebound out and just see it go sideways. But meanwhile, back to the front we go, and well, with so much action happening, we'll try to catch all of it where we can. And right now, your top 3, they are as they were, but intriguingly, it is half a second from car to car here. They are really match each other right now. Now, one of the big questions we do have, of course, is Cuda Motorsport perhaps turning towards strategy already? Are they fuel saving nice and early, and is Wilson Liu having to not fuel save to be able to stay with them given the pace that we saw in qualified? Well, it was Ansell, of course, who dominated qualifying. He was much closer for 2nd through to 10th, so arguably right now you'd imagine that Isaac Fairweather will be trying to glue himself to the back of Ansell, his teammate, and Wilson Liu will be grateful for the fact he does have 2 pace cars to work with in front of him, and Liu really chomping at the bit here. And of course he was very pleased with podium performance last time out at Sebring, but he expected to finish 3rd behind Tom Bland until the pit lane speed and penalty for Bland, so therefore it does seem as though Liu today once again at least settling for a 3rd, but he'd like the win if humanly possible. Right, from them, what else is going on? We look to other full tilt virtual motorsport machines. It's Mark Kent, currently your club leader, and well, he's in a bit of a world of his own at the moment because of the fact he does have a 10-second gap to James Bostock. So he's trying to attack what will be pro and inter drivers. Speaking of pro, he's trying to attack. That's Taus Vosberg, the man who's sitting in 14th in pro, and right now Kent all over the back of him. But I suspect Mark right now is going to try and be as smart as possible about this and respect the fact that is there a point fighting? Well, only if he feels as though that Porsche driver is holding him up. Now, to be fair to Taus Vosberg, he in turn might be trying to do some fuel saving behind Oliver Kemp to get ahead of Rene Maurer, who is only a second ahead of the pair of them. Here is the Leiper eSports driver from Austria. So it is very chop and change right now because, of course, Maurer and Vosberg both the same class but separated by an inter driver. But are they playing for strategy, or are they playing to try and outrun their class peers and also have a fight between each other? Well, Justin Noel, the American driver here, looking around the outside of Chad Henson in towards Tambrello. That's not going to work, and Kevin Smith now queues up behind, and Smith would like a little bit of this, as he wants that place off him wherever possible. We jump on board with Smith then. He's battling for 10th place in the interclass with Noel. Looks up the inside. He's thinking about it there, and don't adjust your TV set, ladies and gentlemen. That's a chip on his windscreen that you can see there. That is not on your TV. Don't worry, you haven't broken your TV with all the epic racing action that's trying to break out there. And indeed, if only we could bring this into your living room in 3 dimensions. seconds. But as we make the way out of turn number 8 and up towards 9, well, it definitely seems to be right now that Kevin Smith, he's close to Noel, but he's not quite got the speed to be able to force a move on him, at least for now. So they come through Piratella Bend, and he's just going to have to wait that little bit longer. Of course, they do have a bit of a comfort gap to 12th place runner Robin Noel Brown, who's a long way back in 36th place overall. You're looking at the battle for 25th overall between the three drivers on screen. Henson holding that place, so therefore they've got a bit of space to play with. Leaving the onboards with them for now, and looking at back down the order, we come to Dwayne Hoffman. He's on the back of Andrew Fellows, and full tilt virtual motorsport driver bringing Ivan Halpka behind him. And of course, we did have Gianluca Rospo fall a little bit further back, and therefore Rospo right now, knowing he's got a bit more work to do here as he tries to go forward, albeit the Diabet Motorsport driver is having definitely a bit of a challenging day compared to what he would have liked. But meanwhile, back to Henson versus Just Noel. These two still fighting each other as they come out of turn number 13, 14 and 15. That is going to be Kevin Smith now looking for a move here, albeit uses a bit of this escape road, almost clatters the pit wall there. My good lord. Well, I know Kevin's one of those reckless drivers when it comes to using the entirety of the road. His philosophy is, I paid to be here, I'm going to use every millimetre of tarmac. And he gets ahead of Just Noel. And Noel, I think, backed off there just a little bit in towards turn number 1 to let Smith go. I think right now Just Noel's taking the adage, which is if Henson's not going to give up the space to him, then let Kevin try to force his way through and waste his tyres and waste his fuel. So we are expecting a one-stop for our drivers today, given the remodelling of the tyres in the GT category as the iRacing 2026 Season 2 update. And these tyres, they do have more durability now compared to their previous counterparts in Season 1. However, they are also a bit more sensitive in their operating window and temperatures. Therefore, you need to protect these tyres a little bit more to get the most out of them. Meanwhile, that's Benjamin Massey going very slowly, going out of Villeneuve in towards Tosa. I think he's had a bit of a moment of some description. That does not look to be a very happy car for Benjamin Massey. I wonder if that car's crawling and there's some damage to it. He's going to pull off the racing line there. I think Massey's race is perhaps falling, and if so, things have gone very wrong for the 3-5-3 driver. Oh, as he comes back up to speed, and in the end, that is going to be Robin Noel Brown and to take a last-ditch reaction there as they made the way through Piratella Corner. And we're not quite sure what the story is behind that one, but definitely a bit of a story there to be said about. And whilst all that's been happening, well, we'll come back to the battle for 5th place in the club class, and Marcus Clayton right now holding off Matthew Massey and Mark Kent. And in fact, hold up a second, how has Mark Kent fallen from the lead of the club class so dramatically? And well, suddenly we have James Bostock leading the club class, and Mark Kent's all the way down in 7th place. Well, we're going to get some replays soon, and we're going to need a massive explainer as to what's happened to the full tilt virtual motorsport driver. That's gone completely backwards there, and we will fill you in as quickly as we can, ladies and gentlemen. But my goodness, there's twists and turns in this race. We're not just talking out the corners of Imola. And meanwhile, Gareth Newton here battling side by side with Kai Hitchler. This is going to be for overall position as they fight over 30th place. And then Hitchler's going to try and go around the outside as Carl leaving the pit lane gradually. That is going to be the Ford GTE of Max Dean, which has fallen a lap down due to repair work, substantial repair work to the car, but they've got it repaired now. And Gareth Newton losing that overall position. Without further ado, though, we are going to take a look back in time, and we're going to take a look to the race start first and foremost. So this is how our race began, and indeed an absolutely packed field as they all went green flag racing. And of course your leaders, well, you could see there as we look to the front of the field that Wilson Yu was absolutely hugging the side of Philip Ansell's car as they went green flag. But they made the way in towards turns 1, 2, 3 and 4. Well, Isaac Fairweather in the end having a good start to his race, no doubt about it, making his way side by side through the corners, and the Kudu Motorsport driver in the end able to take on Wilson Yu. But further back, we did see Tim Perry get caught up in the fight in there for Altitude 3M Esports, and a little bit further adrift from them. Well, plenty of battles, 2-3 wides, but everybody surviving the opening few corners, which was brilliant to see. So, when did the first real instance happen, I hear you ask? Well, we did have this happen for Justin Noel. It was on lap number 1, and this was Noel making his way in towards the Villeneuve chicane as he did so the privateer. Well, that was sideways there for Robin Noel Brown, and then Noel had to take evasive action there to escape the wayward GPX Simsport car, so both losing out, and Patrick Dane also caught up in lap 1. But then we did have a bit of a moment later on. This was Max Chambers' instant, and I do believe this was Chambers who had already run wide a little bit coming out of Villeneuve, made his way up into the braking zone for Tosa. That was Chad Henson up the inside, and a freeway collection there, and Benjamin Massey on the outside being collected. He had no idea what was coming, and unfortunately Henson, by going a bit late with Chambers, it all fell apart for all three of them, but Benjamin Massey lost out the most. We then had this for Max Dean towards the end of lap 1. And this was Dean coming down in towards Acque Minerale, side by side at the time. But then he was able to clear Fabian TF3 and make his way onto the brakes. The rear left tyre locking onto the grass there. Both cars going, oh my goodness, that was in synchronicity. That was Ivan Hauptke at the same time of Dean going on the round. So both drivers having it go wrong. And we'll both, I think, making very similar mistakes there. So a bit of drama, but thankfully everyone able to take evasive manoeuvres. Then we saw this for Nathan Healy on lap number 2 as he roared his way down the start for this straight. The Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver, he had a dismal start to the racing at Sebring and a big lock up there. And well, that was side-to-side contact. And unfortunately, Healy came off the worst there. And I do believe it was Max Chambers hitting him on the rear bumper and Healy's car in bits for the most part. And as he made his way back on, we had this for Aramas Zelinskas. And Zelinskas making his way in the Ford GT in a 2 wide here. And then side by side, he went in towards Villeneuve and he didn't carry too much speed. We caught that earlier on and he had to rejoin after losing a couple of spots. But then we had this big moment for Craig Tillotson, meanwhile, on lap number 2. And this was Tillotson in the Rhino Esports with Edge Overlays Ferrari. He went into Villeneuve, and what went wrong for him? Well, we briefly lost him. He then briefly rematerialised in the ether, went a little bit wide there, and looks like the car struggling a little bit for pace. But we also had this on lap number 3 for Jaden Innes. And this was Innes battling his way down into Acque Minerale for Coude Motorsport. And the Canadian driver wove his way in and did the same mistake as many had done, which was touch the grass, but car went wide. That was Kevin Smith in front, and Innes tapped on the rear end. And I think that was Sebastian Schwertberger who tapped him on the rear and sent him on round. Although we don't have 100% confirmation on that, ladies and gentlemen, so a bit of a disaster for him. We then did have what was a further incident for Dwayne Hoffman on lap number 3. This was Hoffman having it go very wrong. Well, the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport team definitely seen all the drivers have a bit of difficulty in this one, and as he made his way into the chicane, oh my good lord, and in the end somehow sliding between all the cars. Well, I'll say this, ladies and gentlemen, I've only seen that happen 3 times in my commentary career, and Dwayne Hoffman, they're having one of the scariest thread the needle moments in a spinning car. And well, I don't want to say that goes down in my memories as a Hall of Fame moment, but it will be, and well, thankfully for the right reasons, which is nobody was collected. But the big question we've all got is what happened to Mark Kent? And this was on lap number 6, and this is where it all went wrong for your leader in the club cars. He was making his way in towards the auto chicane, went onto the brakes, he did, took a lot of the curbs, and in the end the car slid loose. He was turned there by the Intercuda Academy car that had nowhere to go. And unfortunately for Mark Kent, that was a disaster. It was David Payne who gave him the contact, but I think understandably David had nothing to do there other than see if he could power around the outside. And unfortunately, once he committed to that line, it was all over. So with that, back to your live race we go, ladies and gentlemen. And we have heard that whilst we've been looking at the replays, Mark Kent has been involved in a further incident. And, well, not to bore what we fueled on the fire with regards to him having a dismal day. We are going to leave getting a replay of the incident for the time being. But your club pole sitter, that dominant pole position, does seem to be in the pit lane. And for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, this day has gone very much down rather than up. But meanwhile, back up to the front of the field, we come to your live racing. And as we can see, Philip Ansell at the moment, your leader, with Isaac Fairweather and Wilson Liu behind. Your top 3 still separated by a grand total of a second, if that, and will all push each other to the limit. And meanwhile, Mark Calsbert still leading in the interclass here. He's got Rian Cassidy and Devidas Laureonis currently as his backstop pro drivers between himself and second place runner. Well, I was going to say there was only 2 on the backstop, and now it's going to be Friz Aramas and Zelinskas gets on through. And now Max Wheeler comes on through as Victor Shimura there has the mother of all ham sandwiches coming through, what is Piratella, and we'll make it a complete difficult one of that. And we'll lose all those places there down to 14th place, albeit now he's got company that he doesn't want to see, because that is a fellow Inter driver of Flavian Tiefri at the 3rd place running the class, and he is bringing with us Vidas Andruskevicius and also Jan Lintz. They're all coming on through, and meanwhile Rene Maurer, he's looking at all the Inter drivers in front of him and thinking, okay, how exactly do I clear all those guys, because they're all now getting very fighty with each other. Well, pit stop's way too soon to be considered here in terms of a strategic pit stop. But meanwhile, speaking of one driver who started for the pit lane, Kai Hitchler, he is flying for Leopard Esports, and he's now up to 28th place, and we'll have him started from the very back of the field after technical issues of the car on the grid. Well, credit where it's due to this man. He's made his way halfway through the field already. If he keeps up with this, he could be on course for what would be at least a top 15 finish at the end of it, but he's still got a lot of way to go. But indeed, right now, the battles are calming down to a degree as Max Wheeler's going to try and take on Zelinskas under braking in towards the Tamburello chicane. Is he going to be able to find this? The answer is no, not initially, but he does get under the skin of the Lithuanian driver, and the Briton gets a much better run there coming out of the chicane, and here they go down towards Villeneuve, and well, Wheeler immediately backs out there. He's really being crafty, is Max Wheeler. What he's doing essentially right now is trying to get Zelinskas to outdrive himself, or essentially outbrake himself for a BMW that's not going to be there. He's really playing the mind games here. here is Max Wheeler. He's one of our veteran drivers, no doubt about it. He's been on the grid at SimRacing International for several seasons and years, and the three-wheeler racing driver right now really enjoyed himself out there, but he's got to be careful about touching that grass towards Piratella, because yes, it opens up the corner, but the more you do it, the more likely you are going to lose front traction on the right-hand side tyres, and also on top of that, you're at risk of picking up an instant point. And keep doing it, you very quickly find yourself picking up a drive-through penalty. And of course, if they can find millimetres of margin to abuse, they will do it. That's what every driver will do. But right now, enjoying this brilliant battle for 11th place in the pro class. Wieselinskis, and well, so close there as they spark their way through Alta. And that BMW Wheeler right now, he is absolutely glued to the road in that car. I don't know what he's done with the setup, but compared to qualifying, this car right now is looking a completely different beast. Down towards Ravazza 1, it's not going to be enough. But he's definitely now mounting that pressure on as we get an on board here from the 3-2-3 as it powers its way out of the final major corner. Now powering its way down with a limited number of V8 machines here, and of course a twin-turbo supplemented V8, which can't be more than 4 litres in its capacity. And as he makes his way, well, the BMW's known for its straight line speed, and he'll gradually inch his way on past what will be Zielinski's in towards Tamburello, and this time he will get it done. Zielinski's in the end has no response other than stuck in, but of course the Ford GT very good through quick fire direction change at medium speed, so therefore expects Zielinski's to be able to stay with him as time goes on. But speaking of time, it's time to make our way a little bit further down, back to the club drivers. And here is Brian Beardsworth and Mikhail Salkuni. And Chief Hickson's on its driver, chasing down the second place driver in the club class right now. As we can see there, Newton and Massey going side by side. That's overall position. And Benjamin Massey still moving forward as Brian Beardsworth being run out of road there. Oh, dearie me. Now, I think Beardsworth will not be too impressed by that. Now, there will be some questions to be answered about that. Now, Salkuni did, to be fair, make one move on defence, and it was a very gradual move to the inside of turn number 1. So then the question comes, was there an overlap between Beardsworth and Salkuni? And if there was not, then Salkuni had the right to take that line, and Beardsworth was essentially driving into a closing gap. That's one theory, of course. The other theory is that Salkuni, if there was overlap, was essentially closing the door when the door was being opened. And, well, again, that's the logic the stewards would go for if that does get reported. But Beardsworth, in the end, realising at the last possible moment he needed to back out there. But that could have been tears between the two of them. I think they'll be mindful of that now. And Beardsworth will know perhaps not to try and guard the inside of turns 1 and 2 again. As they make the way on through. And again, we're not apportioning blame to either driver there, but just a bit of a contentious moment, and just explain how the stewards could look at it if it does get reported. But Benjamin Massey's now closed onto the back of this. And speaking of the Masseys, as I do believe John Stately's cheering on the other Massey member. I don't believe these two are related, however. They just have the same surname. But the Spectre Racer driver of Matthew Massey, well, he's currently going in at 5th place in the club class. He's having a really good day, to be fair to him. He was a bit anomalous at Sebring, but here today, currently running 5th in club class. He started 9th, and he's gained 10 places overall from 44th to 34th. And is all black and green at BMW right now. The Spectre driver is looking really good out there. And we look forward to seeing how far he can go. His next target is Gareth Newton, but Newton is 5.5 seconds up the road, so he's got a bit of work to do. And right now he is matching the pace of Gareth Newton, but he won't be with a mistake like that. And Matthew Massey there, I shouldn't have praised him so highly. It's the commentator's curse. I was going to say it's all looking good, and suddenly it's all looking bad. And, well, unfortunately, he's going to lose a couple of places there to Clayton and also to Hoffman. Will he get back ahead of Hauptke before he comes on through? He will there as Massey rejoins the racing. So if anyone does want to put the blame towards someone, you could say to Matthew afterwards, it's because you were on the commentator's camera that you did have that instant. It wasn't because he made a mistake. I don't mind, ladies and gentlemen. But meanwhile, as Philip Ansell, Isaac Fairweather and Wilson Hughes start to come up with lap down cars, well, they make the way on past there. Was the recovering machine of, I do believe, that might be the BMW of Nathan Healy. Mark Kent, meanwhile, is in the pit lane. I don't think we're going to be seeing Mark go out there anytime soon. That car is currently going down pit road. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. In fact, yes, it is making it out of pit road. So Kent on a drive-through penalty there with a black flag, and that will be for instant points. His days are going from good to bad to nightmare. I don't think he can get much worse than that. And he's now going to try and see over the remaining 66 minutes of the racing whether he can turn it into a dream at this point onwards. But that will be to be seen. But as our leaders do make the way on towards lap number 15, where everything's looking in control at the moment, but no sign of strategic pit stops. Indeed, everybody out there right now for quite a bit of time, and I suspect we'll start to see some pit stops in around about 30 minutes time. Or in fact, we might see them sooner than that. That's a bit of an over-exaggeration. We might start to see pit stops within the next 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how wide they feel the pit window is going to be. But Dwayne Hoffman and John Lubrook, they swap placing around there. It'll be Lubrook moving up to 36th. And in the end, the club driver falling behind the Inter driver. And as they change place, well, meanwhile, we're going to change the tone. We're going to go back in time and have a look at some big moments from earlier on in the race, including this big incident for Mark Kent. When his day was going bad, it started to go a lot worse. Now, he'd had that incident already at the Auto Chicane. Front bumper of the car hanging loose after the contact that followed. And, well, now coming through the Tamburello chicane, I think there was already damage to the car, to be fair. And unfortunately, the steering rack misaligned and the full tilt virtual motorsport driver tow into the pits in a car that was not in a healthy state of mind. We had this for Kevin Smith. A lap later, on lap number 11, battling with none other than what was Chad Henson. They made the way into Villeneuve. Henson was all over the back of him. Ooh, that was a hit at the sausage curb, and it sent the car up into the air, up into one wheel for a brief moment. And the Renault Esport Edge Overlays drive being brought crashing down to terra firma. That's not the way you want it to go, but thankfully they did not cause the car to leap entirely. If he had, he might have had to tow to the pits with damaged suspension. But thankfully the Briton gets away with it that time, but the steering rack of that car may be misaligned as a result. John Chamberlain had a bit of a moment of his own. This was coming out of Villeneuve and in towards Tosa Hairpin. And he made his way through the left-hander. What exactly happened? He came in quite hot, a little bit too hot for comfort, and in the end had to go straight out onto the grass there in order to get the car settled down. Otherwise, that would have gone around for a spin. But only moments later, we had this for Jaden Innes, the club driver who was looking quite good, to be fair, for Cuda Motorsport. And more the 102 in the end, having a bit of a moment at Quinarale, came in too hot, got hooked on the curve there at turn number 9, and it sent the car spinning on around. For Jaden Innes, it was a moment not to be remembered, albeit he'll learn from that one, no doubt about it. And John Becker, meanwhile, the man who started from the very back of the club class, he was battling side by side at the time with an Inter driver coming in towards that Quinarale. Went too wide around the outside. That's bold, that's brave, but in the end collected on the side of what was, I think, they're the 264 of Olivier Granier, and all three of them came together, and Mark Kent, surely not, he got caught up in that as well. I don't believe it. It's so much bad luck for the 194 driver, and well, sometimes you have all the bad luck in the world, and right now he's having all the bad luck plus plenty more as we head back to your live racing. As we do come back, well, still more to unfold, no doubt about that. Indeed, we've still got just over an hour of racing to come. But right now, as we come back to plenty of battling in class, well, this is Flavien Thieffry and Victor Chamorro fighting for second place in the Inter category. As we do say hello in the YouTube chat there to Mikhail Abazek. And good evening to you, good sir. I hope you're doing well. And Mikhail, of course, one of the much-loved drivers from Season 1 as part of the Inox Motorsport team. I do believe racing our GT3 series for this season and also racing in the GTs. Although not on the grid today, I've noticed, Mikhail. I hope all's well. Perhaps you're on holiday, I suspect. But either way, it's good to have you tuning in, good sir. But as Flavien Thieffry makes his way up through Ravazza 1 and Ravazza 2, Chamorro staying right with him. This is a really good little battle building up between these two. And whilst the Porsche is proven to be a very popular car so far this season, particularly with the latest balance performance update, and while I have been monitoring the iRacing official GTE Sprint series, and there have been a lot of questions about whether the Porsche is due a little bit of a balance performance bump, well, it's a bit too soon to understand. Of course, the Porsche 911 RSR, a very popular car of the GTEs. Back in the era where we did have the Corvette dominance, the Porsche was the number 2 car, and it was a very powerful car on a good number of circuits, particularly low-speed traction circuits. But also the Porsche synonymous with a 9,000 RPM screamer of an engine, and therefore that's why it's one of those popular GTEs to race with, even if it's not the quickest. But indeed, looking to be a very popular car and a strong car here today. And it's Porsches that are leading all 3 classes at the moment, but it could change at a moment's notice, of course. But Victor Chamorro right now still giving chase, and the Corvette there with the engine that's a relatively quiet engine inside the car, but a very loud engine outside of it. Well, the Spaniard continue to pursue him as much as possible. But Vidas Andruskevicius is there with him as well, the SRB Motorsport driver. And right now, he'll be very happy to see that the two in front of him are still battling. He's got Jan Lins for company, but Mark Kalsberg, meanwhile, is well clear at the front of the infield by 8 seconds. That's going to give him a little bit of respite. So therefore, it does look as though right now, 2nd through to 5th is the main flashpoint of the battle in the Inter class inside that top 10. Although, let's not forget the fact we have got David Payne being caught by John Chamberlain. And Payne does have a bit of damage to his car after the altercation with Mark Kent, where he had to try and take evasive action with Kent getting it wrong at what was the auto chicane. But unfortunately, he picked the outside. It was the wrong side to go on, but he had the right intentions at the time. And John Chamberlain right now chasing after him in a car that's definitely a bit of better condition. Oh, hold up a second. Quanley 2's gone around. He was the next driver we're going to come to. And the We Pay 300 Esports drivers had a spin at the auto chicane. He was at the time 9th in the Inter class, but just now comfortably take that place off him. And the Chinese driver now dropping all the way down to 11th place in class, 28 overall. An innocent spin there, but a big one that's going to prove very costly, and we'll get a replay of that when we can. Meanwhile, as all these drivers weave and wind the way through, Wilson Hughes found his way ahead of Isaac Fairweather, so this has happened off camera. And, well, meanwhile, Philip Ansell's broken away 2 seconds up the road, but Hughes into second place in Pro. So they're fighting hard as they come for Rally, and in front of them they've got a couple of drivers who will be stepping aside to go a lap down here, so that's going to be the full process. And understandably, well, we do see none other than Olivier Grenier returning to the race tonight, the live SimRacing driver right now, bringing himself off race tonight, and Lou's going to come through here, and with him Fairweather's going to hope he's being given the same space to work with. If not, I think he'd be absolutely fuming with that, and Isaac Fairweather does squeeze him through, but Wilson Hughes under absolutely gargantuan pressure as we look back from the rear of the 388. And well, they do say with these cameras that objects may appear closer than they seem, but we promise you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, the objects here are not closer than they would seem. They are very close indeed. And as our battle box there in excitement goes off the screen and comes back, well, these drivers making their way down towards turn number 1, and here comes Fairweather with the draft. It's going to be a huge slipstream as they roar the way onto the gantry camera. 2-1, they come in towards Tamburello, and Fairweather gets ahead there on the brakes, makes it sealed and done into Tamburello, and Wilson Hughes does not try to fight it back too hard, but I think Hughes got other plans to fuel save behind, so therefore he'll stay there right now, fall back to third, but know that he's battling for that second place spot. Meanwhile, John Becker just in front, although lack of Ivan Halpka. And right now, as he gets close there, well, blue flags will be waving. This is a nightmare situation for John Becker because he will see Christian Ablas's car behind him, but that's not the car that he's getting the blue flag for. He'll be getting the blue flag for what will be the machines of none other than Isaac Fairweather and Wilson Liu, who are closing quickly. So everyone right now is stepping on each other's toes here as he makes his way past Nathan Healy's car and will make their way over the hill, and down they go. Well, Ablas, so they're coming through. In fact, that was Halpka stepping aside. So Halpka, I think, misinterpreting the blue flags and actually giving up a spot by accident to John Becker there, because then suddenly we will see Nathan Healy coming up behind shortly, but Halpka there responding to the blue flags a little bit too soon perhaps, but again being safe about it. So I think it's the right call from the privateer, but he's got to look back at that one afterwards and just realise he's actually lost the club position by being too respectful. But to be fair, it's better to be too respectful than not at all, as meanwhile Christian Ablasser makes his way past John Becker for overall position. But coming on down the hill right now, and there we can see your second and third place overall drive squeezing the way through, as meanwhile this is a change of position. This is Gareth Newton, the GPX SimSport Vertex drive, squeezing ahead of his fellow GPX SimSport teammate O'Brien Beardsworth for second in the club class. And right now in club it's GPX SimSport 1, 2, 3, albeit as we do look here to Marcus Clayton and Mikel Salcuni. Well, these two are doing really well. Clayton's now up into fourth place of the class, and Salcuni, up until that point, the Verano Esports driver, well, of course, he did have that little bit of a moment with Brian Beardsworth, and I believe they have swapped the places on around now. We will get a replay of what happened between them in terms of the overtake that was made in the end, and Salcuni drops down to fifth, but was doing well to be in the podium spot, and don't count him out as of yet. The Italian driver still got a long way to go, and still might be hoping that there is going to be some places to be made, and Dwayne Hoffman as well. And the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver, remember, he started last out at Sebring in 9th place, and in the end brought him home at 3rd place. He started today in 16th place. He's currently up to 6th. The Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver, he has this theme about consistency, strategy and data, and right now all the data is trending upwards there, but right now can he keep it together? There's still a long way to go, but right now Hoffman is definitely getting quicker and quicker, and in fact his pace right now is actually looking to be the equal of James Bostock, the club leader. So therefore Hoffman, I think, right, is really starting to expose the pace that he's got compared to his rivals, but it's taken the race distance to do it, but he's playing all the angles, and well, let's wait and see where he can find a winning angle before this is all said and done. But as he heads down in towards Ravazza, we take a brief trip back in time and find out exactly how Brian Beardsworth passed Mikel Salcuni. Now, this was coming down in towards Aquinarale. Something tells me here that Salcuni is going to get it wrong, as in fact our replayers jumped there to a different car. And then there's Salcuni going for a spin. We do apologise for that. There was a bit of a technical issue. Can we actually get the proper replay? I think we're going to try a slightly different perspective. Here we go again. I think we are going to get Salcuni this time, so we do apologise for that. And it was a mistake there going into turn number 10. And in the rear of the car, just coming around there, a bit aggressive on the downshift perhaps. And the Italian going for a spin and then having to get reset. Did well to spin it back off the road and get it pointed in the right direction. So 10 out of 10 for that, but not 10 out of 10 for the original mistake. And he'll know that best, as he'll be berating himself until he gets it right next time around. But meanwhile, the man who started from the very back of the field in the pro class, Kai Hitchler, he had an off there at the Villeneuve chicane, went to rejoin, And as he did so, the rear of the car came loose. No grip on those rear tyres. I think there's also some damage. That car goes spinning around there. And in the Inox Motorsport Porsche to take evasive action. And that's Benjamin Massey and Kai Hitchler into the barrier. And we'll parking up there for a bit of time before getting going. I think he just needed the moment to restart the car and also potentially to cool himself down. But with that, we come back to your live racing and in good time as well, because we do still see Philip Ansell leading. 2 seconds is the gap he has over Isaac Fairweather, his teammate for Cuda Motorsport, and then Wilson New, who rounds off that top 3. But most prevalently, we are starting to see some pit stops come. John Chamberlain has pitted. And also, Mikel Salcuni has also pitted. So they have taken what will be their expected strategic pit stops. Jaden Innes as well took one on what was lap 13. That may be within the pit window, to be fair. So we are into the pit stop territory. And we will bring the pit stop graphic up on the tower, the timer on the left-hand side of your screen. So you can keep up to date with who has pitted and who has not. Remember, there will be some erroneous ones where drivers did pit or stop from the pit lane. So therefore, that will throw things a little bit sideways with regards to understanding. But right now, what you do need to know is the highest place driver who has pitted is in 36th. Here he is. It's John Chamberlain, who right now for Concord Motorsport is trying to go for the largest possible undercut strategy he can. As meanwhile, Dwayne Hoffman under pressure from Christian Ablasser, and Ablasser trying to cover through. Remember, Ablasser did have to pit at the end of lap number 4 due to damage to the car, so therefore he has yet to pit. They are in the same race effectively, and right now Dwayne Hoffman, I think, watching behind him and thinking to himself, you know what, I might just let this go when the time is right. But he's going to take his time with this. Doesn't need to do anything crazy. As meanwhile, that is going to be a car off the road. And I believe that is Gavin Corby who tows the pit lane. As meanwhile, we lose him and come to Jaden Innes. And Corby towed there at the last possible moment when the car was in the middle of the road. So thankfully, nobody was caught up in that one as Jaden Innes carries on. But meanwhile, looking further behind, we do look back there to Robin Noel Brown with Kai Hitchler together with him. And well, and now they all even wind their way through. With Noel Brown on the back of this group. The car behind them, that is going to be the car of none other than what I do believe. Well, I think that is going to be a lap down car. Just trying to discern whose it is. I wonder if that's Sebastian Schwerdtfeger. And well, here is Sebastian. Yes, it is. We've got it spot on there. And the privateer right now from Germany makes his way on through. He is a lap down this group. He's had a very frustrating race. But to be fair, Imola definitely has given to some, but it's taken from plenty of others. And unfortunately, he's one of the drivers who it has been taken from. But he's got plenty of race distance to go. It's not over yet. He's 14th in the inter-category at the moment. You never know what could happen come the end of it. As we do see a few cars fanning out and quite hitched up the inside of Brian Beardsworth, who gives up overall position there to the pro driver. But Beardsworth can't afford to keep doing that, given the fact that Robin Noel Brown will be the next driver up behind him, albeit he has then got a 16-second comfort gap to full place club driver of Marcus Clayton. But you never ideally want to keep giving up time and places because you never know where that time could be valuable later on. Here is Christian Ablasser now ahead of Dwayne Hoffman down the start for the straight. So Hoffman deciding it was the right time to give up the place on the run down towards lap 23. So a bit of a change between them. As we do say hello to Ryan Clark, who cheers on Matt Massey. And Matthew Massey, here he is still in the BMW M8 for Spectre Racing. Currently running in 8th in the club class after that spin down at Ravazza. And, well, he was 5th at the time, now down to 8th, but chasing after Ivan Hauptka. And at the same time, he's got Gianluca Rospo, only 6 seconds behind him. And in terms of battles in class, where are they playing out at the moment? Well, we do have Mark Hutchinson under pressure from Joris Peters-Veem, the Ford GTE driver, who we haven't really talked about too much after he did try to find a way ahead of Tim Perry and a couple other drivers earlier on, albeit it didn't quite work out there in the mad tussle coming down in towards the Tamburello chicane. For the Altitude 3M eSports driver right now, still enjoying himself out there, and Joris Peters-Veem and Rian Casti closing up behind. So this is a three-way fight at the moment for effectively what is 7th place in the pro class, and overall they have ditched the interleader of Mark Kalsbert, and therefore he's dropped down to 10th place, but he's still enjoying a very comfortable lead in the interclass, so he's not too threatened about that. But right now these three pro drivers will just be focusing on each other and doing everything they can. But we do see the number 391 car make its way onwards. Right now, it definitely feels like he's number 1 in this group. And I think we're going to see a bit of a move here from Cassidy. He's going to try and go around the outside of Peters-Veem, coming down into the braking zone at 4 of Axel 1. In the end, he will be running a little bit wide. Now on the outside there is the understanding, there's the gentleman's rule of Imola, which is in the outside of Ravazza 1, you normally back off unless you've got your nose ahead at the apex. Then you force a move, but otherwise you normally back off for the simple reason it is an off-camber corner, and that means cars will understeer steer there, especially when they're too wide. But here comes Cassidy now with the momentum he's built up out of Ratsa 2. He's going to go to the inside here, in towards the Tamburello chicane, and takes that place off of Peters Veem, just like that. Clockwork. That was a textbook pass there from the Irishman. And now will he be able to chase down the Briton of Hutchinson? We will see. The Team Endurotech driver definitely enjoying himself back into his starting position in class, and now more work to be done. Well, the battles towards the very front of the field in the Pro Class are definitely spacing out a little bit. At the back end of the top 10, they're enjoying themselves. And, well, as we do look a little bit further back to the battle for second place in the Inter category, we're still Victor Shibara ahead of Flavian Tiefri and Vidas Andruskevicius, with Jan Lint on the back of this group. But these four separated by 2 seconds in total. It is a really impressive quartet, this group right now. And well, Mark Halsbear will be grateful for the fact he does have about a 10-second gap to them. Because can you imagine if it was a 5-way fight for the win in the Interclass? It'd be entertainment for us, most definitely. But I think for Carlsberg, he would not want to have that problem on his hands as we get closer and closer towards the halfway point of this race. But what a race it's been thus far. Still plenty more to come, as Victor Shimara now has TF3 so close here. And those Porsches looking very good for the medium speed quarters. But coming on through at Minerale, Shimara there in a Corvette. And it definitely has seen its dominance neutered down quite a bit. Right now, the Enosis Esports Private here doing everything he can just to hold his ground. But meanwhile, as we jump on board with Andruskevicius, right on board the dashboard, the Lithuanian driver here, comfortably 6/10 behind, so staying well within attacking distance if he needs to do so. But also, I think, thinking about one thing at the moment, which is just simply stay at a good distance and make sure you're ready to get involved should the two in front of you start to battle hard or, weather pit, take each other out of the race. Albeit, that shouldn't normally happen, and the respect between these drivers have been admirable so far this season, but it is always a fault when you're number 3 in the group. You want to try and make it a menage a trois, but you don't want to get too far involved. We're heading down the start for this straight and on to now lap 25, and we're still a bit too far back here for the battle between the quartet. Indeed, it is building up to something as the sun shines here in Italy. But further back down, we head to your club leader, and this is James Bostock, the GPX Simsport Onyx driver. And if he knows he's in the lead of the club class right now, I'll tell you one thing, I think he'll be focused on one thing at a time. That'll be complete each and every lap and don't make a mistake. Because he's in control here. Perhaps this is going to be the season where it's the opposite of season 1, where every time he goes into lead, it all works out. But we will see, as unfortunately, Marcus Clayton's car, I think, is going to tow to the pits. Yes, it does. And Marcus Clayton, who was inside the top 5 of the club class at the time, well, he's going to yield at that place. And Matthew Massey now jumps back up. Now, we are seeing some pit stops for the club drivers to be pointed out. We've had Brian Beardsworth in, also Mikhail Salcuni. So, therefore, now we are looking at drivers who have made track positions but have not made strategic positions. So, this is going to get a little bit confusing. We believe Massey right now is approximately 7th in the club class based on strategy. We'll have to wait and see what he can do here, but he is going long. We're coming on down the hill. Well, we can see there a few drivers running the way through, and those are drivers on a mixture of laps, including Tim Perry. Well, not Tim Perry. I was about to say Mark Hutchinson. That was Perry making his way onwards, and here's Hutchinson right now, as we do see coming into the pit lane. That is Matthew Massey. So he times that really well. He gets out the way of the lead lap cars and decides instead now to focus on the pit stop, get that done nice and early. As we get towards the halfway point of the race, and are we going to be on a one-stop here today? I suspect for the majority of drivers that yes, we are strategically, because we are seeing ourselves getting closer and closer towards the halfway point, and that fuel tank is continuing to extend them nice and deep into the racing. Hutchinson, Cassidy and Peters Veem still together. The car behind them, meanwhile, well, that is going to be Nathan Healy's BMW M8 for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, being the best part now of 3 laps down behind, still in this race to win it, which is what we like to see. But meanwhile, Marcus Clayton still being repaired in the pit lane, and I look out my Conte booth window, and there we do see Matthew Massey's car going up onto the jack. So they're going to change some tyres on the car. That's going to cost them a lot more time. Remember, it's 7 seconds of tyre change plus 2 seconds of the jacks to go up and 2 seconds for them to come down. So 30 seconds in total we spend if it's all 4 being changed. But the team feels though he needs a fresh set of tyres in order to be able to feel confident going to the rest of the race distance, and perhaps he'll be able to pick up the pace here at Imola. But we will see whether the new tyre wear is going to give him what he wants. Meanwhile, Hutchinson having to go defensive here, coming out of Aquinarale. That was an attempt from Ryan Cassidy to get on the inside towards the auto chicane, and we get this static camera here that shows them all coming on through. With right now USB team just watching like a hawk, but no change between the trio. But as this battling's going on, we need to take a quick look back at a big moment only months ago for Marcus Clayton, and this is what happened to Marcus Clayton that resulted in him having to tow to the pits. So this was Clayton making his way up towards the Tosa hairpin at the time, enjoying a very happy run inside the top 5 of the club class. lost the rear of the car by looks things, and in the end tried to correct it by straightening it out. Oh, and then the car went into the side of him as well. That was Olivier Granier, and Granier got it wrong as well. They both went to rejoin at the same time. Meanwhile, that was Halpka on the right side of your picture. Well, I don't think you can have oil down on the circuit in iRacing, but it does really feel as though there was oil there with the way they all span round. And this is what happened to Ivan Halpka in the meantime. He made his way out the road. Olivier Granier was on the inside. Did the two of them ever coming together? The answer is, oh, yes, they did. And Halpka lost the rear, and Granier had no time to react. And that's what sent Granier on the warpath towards Clayton's car and did the damage to Clayton's car in the end that saw it have to tow to the pit lane. So that explains it all. What an absolutely bewildering instant, ladies and gentlemen. And well, I've never quite seen one like that as we come back to your live racing. And as we do, we inch closer and closer towards the halfway point. And now, still Mark Hutchinson is the focus of our cameraman's attention, but for a brief moment, because there's Jan Lintz, and that is a move for fourth in the interclass. And Lintz getting ahead there of Vidas Andruskevicius. And now, well, Lintz has finally made his mark, but he's got 4.5 seconds to close down to Flavien Tiefri, the third place runner in the intercategory at this time. So still more work to be found, and Lintz is definitely going to have to dig deep if he wants that podium spot. As they come charging on through and in towards Piratella. Well, right now, definitely there's been an intriguing opening 45 minutes of racing here at Imola. We're coming towards the end of it, and we've still got the second half to go. Still got battles playing out there, but everyone right now definitely staying close to each other. As we do say hello to, and in fact, commiserations to Mark Kent, who after leading the club class in the early stage of the race, a small mistake at the auto chicane had big repercussions, unfortunately, and in a further instant just completely ruining the steam of his race. And Mark, I do feel for you, and like you say, what a shame there, but still, brilliant pole lap in the end. You've got to take the positives out of it, and hopefully we'll see an even better day for yourself at Bathurst in a week's time. But glad to have you tuning in and with us now, as meanwhile, Mark Hutchinson battling side by side with Ryan Cassidy. Cassidy goes outside to inside, back to outside. Hutchinson still there, side by side. The Ford GT showing its muscles here, which is its ability to be quick for medium speed corners. And now Hutchinson's going to have to try and hold on here for Villeneuve. He'll do so initially, but Cassidy forces the move, a small touch, and then Hutchinson gets back ahead. What a moment between those two. Great respectful racing, and Ryan Cassidy absolutely fighting this hard. He wants that track position now. I think he recognises the fact that Hutchinson, whilst he is quick, he's not perhaps as quick as what the Porsche 9 and RSR can deliver, and this is before the pit stops here, so the fuel tanks are getting lighter and lighter, and all three of these drivers are itching to battle. And they've got a 7.7 second gap to Tim Perry, and that's Hutchinson's teammate for Altitude Frame Esports. So understandably right now the 391 driver trying to hold on for just that little bit longer, and this gives Perry a bit more breathing room there should he feel as though he'll be threatened later on in the race. But I don't think team orders are in effect here. I think Hutchinson wants this 7th place by default. He's not been told to defend it, and he's going to hold on to it because he wants the big points. And when a Ford GT, which when we caught up with the team in the build-up to the season, they were saying about the fact he was not fancying his chances for top 10 finishes this season, but he's definitely fancying him. He had a great result at Sebring, and here today he's really getting into the thick of the fighting. And to be fair to the 391 driver, I think he's got to have that confidence. I think he's getting that confidence that while he may not rate himself as one of the top pro drivers out there, he may not be the quickest, but he is definitely one of the best when it comes to all-round capability. But meanwhile, Joris Petersveen reacts. He comes into the pit lane and says, right, if they're going to fight, I better do my fighting in the pit lane instead. So a bit of smart's being shown here. Wilson Hughes also in, and so is Christophe Dubois. So therefore, the coup de motorsport drivers are Philip Ansell and Isaac Fairweather 3 seconds behind. They have now got clear track from the WePay 300 Esports driver. Can they make the most out of it to make sure they are guaranteed to come on home with a 1-2 here today? Well, we will have to see, as Isaac Fairweather right now looking in control for his destiny in the run-up spot. Pedro Luis da Silva 16 seconds behind. And the GP Extenswort Zenon driver from Portugal, or the 355 driver right now, wind his way through these corners, looking to be absolutely in a bit of a lonely race, if you will, albeit, of course, his race is really with Tim Perry and also with the likes of Davidas Loinonis and Rene Maura. So we'll have to see where they fit back into the picture. But right now, Pedro Luis da Silva's got clear track in front of him, excluding Matthew Massey's car that's going to go a lap down to him. And also he's got clear track behind him, with Mark Hutchinson is 10.5 seconds away, and Massey stepping aside immediately there. So great awareness from Massey, and well, from them we come back to your interclass leader. It is Mark Carlsberg, and the Cuda Academy driver looking absolutely in control still, with a gap to Victor Shimaro of 14 seconds or so. Shimara, meanwhile, he's still got the problem of Flavien Thierry breathing down his neck, and Thierry looking one way than the other. So right now, the Spaniard here has no respite. He's got no comfort, although he has had Jan Lins and also Andres Ferocious both come in. So therefore, they've taken their pit stop, and they're getting out the way as soon as possible. In terms of those pit stops at the moment, a lot of drivers are taking them now. The fuel tanks are practically getting to the end. It does look as though in the end, the fuel tank could be extended to the best part of approximately what was a grand total of 50 minutes, so not just that much more than half the race distance here, but it's going to be a one-stop race today, and of course everyone will be trying to put fuel in the car as Shimara goes another lap. But meanwhile, Philip Ansell already leaving the pit lane, and there they go as he makes one out. So he will be leading every lap of the race at this point, because Shimara will not take the lead off of him, even though he is going the extra lap in the interclass. But well done to Enosis Esports driver. And well, this is something Enosis are known for. Their strategies are very good with fuel saving. And Shimara right now is going a 30th lap on a single tank of fuel, whereas nobody else seems to be able to do it other than David Payne. So Payne has jumped up to second in the interclass currently. But remember the fact he has got to pits, that will put him down as he goes up the inside of Pedro Luis da Silva. That's not something the Portuguese driver wanted to see. Was a car that's carried on, and he'll try to come through quite quickly here to be able to get the place back. This is going to hurt him a little bit, as Payne right now, well, it won't be by design that he's been able to get ahead of him. In terms of, I don't think the Kudo Academy have wanted to manufacture this, but still, Pedro da Silva wants to clear the Inter driver. He'll likely know that he's going to be coming in at the end of this lap or within the next 2 laps, given that fuel tank will be running on fumes at this point, but understandably, he will be losing a little bit of time. The only good side of this, of course, is he can do a bit of fuel saving behind the Inter driver if he feels as though the difference in pace is not too notable, and their respective fastest laps, well, it would say that Luis da Silva is going to be on average around about 4 to 5 tenths a lap quicker, particularly on the early laps in a given stint. So for Luis da Silva, I think patience will be absolutely critical right now, but next time around, should we see David Payne go another lap, I think at that point he's going to be saying to him, right, I'm coming through whether you like it or not. In towards the braking zone for Autodromo, no signs at the moment. Wipers on there for Payne, that's to get some debris off the windshield, and we'll just give himself a clear vision of every corner going forward. But we're definitely in the strategic stakes of the race right now, so therefore things have calmed down a little bit. We have sadly had a disqualification from this race for Jaden Innes. That is for instant points that have been picked up. So therefore, your 102, your 11th place runner in the club class is out of this race. We have lost a few drivers from it. We've still got a few races, no doubt about it. But in the end, there goes a pit stop for none other than David Payne. And Victor Shimara has also come in, although parked inside the 104 at the moment. But don't worry, they will untangle themselves very shortly. But looking back to Philip Ansell, the lead then. And with all of our mandated pit stops coming to a close, so therefore they're all done and dusted. We're now into the second stint of the race. At this point onwards, it'll be battles on the road, and if anybody has not taken enough fuel to get to the under race and scaled on fuel capacity, we might see a last-minute dash into pit lane. But Victor Shimara makes his way on down. We look to the blimp camera. Where is Flavien Thierry? Here he is. This is going to be close between the two of them. In fact, I think Shimara is going to come out behind here. It's going to be a small margin. There he comes. And where is Shimara? In fact, no, Flavien Thierry is going to miss out here. Or is he? It's going to be practically even. And in the end, Victor Shimara, by going the extra lap, has been able just to outrun Flavien Thierry on strategy there. But Thierry is behind him once again. The gap is 2 tenths. And now Thierry's got to really attack on this lap. He's got his tyres back up to temperature immediately. Shimara, meanwhile, on the same tyres where he pitted. But of course, every second you spend stationary in the pit lane, you lose a little bit of tyre temperature. So right now, Thierry's got to really maximise this, because come the end of this lap, they will be back to equality. And that's the last thing you want as a driver. You want to have an unfair advantage as much as you possibly can. And once they make the way up to Piratella here, he's going to look to the inside for second place in the club class. But it's not enough there. That Corvette beating him to the braking zone. I think Thierry, he wants to go for it, but he doesn't want to risk it. I think he thinks as though he can get this done later on in the race. Although right now, you know, to imagine he might be just holding himself back a little bit here by being a bit too patient with this one. And then again, we've still got 40 minutes to go. It's the big 4-0 at the top centre of your screen. We'll have to see what the plan's going to be for the Valent Racing Team driver, but he's a very fair driver out there, no doubt about it. And he wants to do this the right way rather than the wrong way. But whilst all that has happened, well, we look back to Oliver Kemp. He is in 6th place in the intercategory. The Concord Motorsport driver ahead of David Payne by 7.8 seconds. But in problem is he's got Rene Maurer and Talis Vosberg in front of him. The two pro drivers fighting over 13th in class. And, well, they seem to be enjoying a good little scrap. And the difficulty is going to be in the fact that Oliver Kemp is on the back of them and matching them for pace, intriguingly. So therefore, you'd ideally want them to be cleared sooner rather than later. But then again, patience is a virtue. And appreciate that. as they roll the way through. We look to the YouTube chat and say hello to Forteros90. I do believe that is none other than Fotis Catihos in there. And a good evening to you, good sir. And indeed, one of our stars of the Thursday GT3 Championship, taking a bit of a break for the current season. And indeed, we like to refer to him as Mr. Quick Starter because of the fact he'll always gain multiple places on an open lap race. And also Mr. Overtaker, for the fact he finds a way to go for moves that nobody else would try and somehow get them to work or at least survive them. And I hope you're doing well, my friend. But meanwhile, into the pit lane with a black flag drive-through penalty. It's Mikel Salcuni, the Verano Esports driver. In fact, that looks to be a stop and hold penalty if he's parking up in the pit lane. So I wonder what's happened there. Perhaps there's an unsafe pit entry or a pit release, perhaps speed in the pit lane. But Salcuni's race is going to go very much backwards now in the club class when it was all going towards the top 5. But suddenly it's all fallen apart. Now we have lost on the way as well Matthew Massey. He's had to bring into the pits due to a technical issue with the car. So Massey is out of this one when he was looking good potentially for a top 10. The club class is falling to a degree. And I think a few drivers have had things go a bit wrong. But meanwhile, as we do see Ivan Hupka making his way on past Mikel Salcuni. So he's now up to 7th place in the club class. I think these two are going to have a little bit of a fight later on. Salcuni's picked up another black flag. I wonder if Salcuni's got a drive-through penalty, and that pit stop we saw actually was a pit stop there for fuel. The Verano Esports team only fueled him for 16 seconds. Did he come into the pits early? Yes, he did. So I think he's had to split the race into a 2-stop strategy because he had to come in for repair work to the car, but understandably it was too early to give him enough fuel to get to the end of the race. So therefore he's picked up a black flag for what is at track limits or instant point. He's going to do a drive-through penalty. That's going to send him even further back. And Salcuni's race right now falling to bits, unfortunately. And well, you never know what can happen to the very end. The club class definitely has had a high rate of retirement, whereby we have lost on the way Mark Kent, Max Dean. Also, we do have Gavin Corby still in the pit lane. Although, in fact, Corby's out on circuit at the moment. I should mind my manners there and not be rude about the British driver as he's trying to get this to the end right now. And credit to him where it's due in the fact he's had a difficult race, but he's not giving up. He is doing everything he can to stay out there. And at this rate, if he is able to carry on and get these laps done, he will be taking the top 10 here today in the club class. He'll be absolutely proud as punch of the point, and I'll be very happy for him as well. Because to be fair, everyone's learning. I'm sitting in the club class. If you're new to these GTEs, they are quite the experience to get used to. And Corby right now just gradually getting there little by little. But from him, we look back to Victor Chamorro running second in your interclass with Flavien Tieffri on his heels. And was they make the way out of Aquadarale? I think if he was any closer, Flavien Tieffri, he would be touching the rear bumper. But here they come up towards the Alta chicane. Chamorro defends in the middle of the road and Tieffri backs off there. But right now, Flavien is absolutely being an aggressor here. He's been such an egregious aggressor, but he's doing it fairly. He is making Tieffri constantly have to, well, he's making Chamorro have to constantly look in his rear mirror to see whether a move is coming or not, but it's not coming, at least at the moment, it would seem. But you never say never. It could happen at any moment, and Tieffri will be waiting to pull that trigger when the time is right. 269 Spaniards right now, keeping safe in that Corvette. And this Corvette still showing it's got the race pace, even if it hasn't got the 1 lap pace anymore. And therefore, I think for Chamorro at this point, he'll just be hoping he can hold on for a bit longer. Well, as they head on down, we look to the YouTube chat there, and we do say hello to Aaron Touchstone, who says, let's go, and good evening to you, good sir. And we also do say hello there to none other than AJPKR, who is cheering on none other than Let's Go Cuda Motorsport. And they are your 1-2 leaders in the Pro Class currently, with Ansell still leading, looking to try and make it 2 wins in 2 races for this season. And Isaac Fairweather, who missed out on the opportunity to be on the podium last time out of course, given the fact he missed the gridding procedure. Well, now he is currently in 2nd place, where he started 3rd. He was split between himself and his teammate by Wilson Liu. But after the pit stops, he has cleared Wilson Liu to the tune of 6.5 seconds. And Liu right now for WePay 300 Esports, currently at 30 of pros, not close enough to them, but comfortably clear of Christophe Dubois, who's currently running in 4th place. The Corvette driver, and here he is for the live SimRacing team, and the Frenchman right now doing a very good job, to be fair, running in 4th place, and he's been able to gradually gap Pedro Luis da Silva, who's trying to stay with him, but it's a bit too far away to really play a role at the moment at least, but you never know what could happen. Meanwhile, looking back to Ryan Cassidy, he's still chasing after Mark Hutchinson. He's not giving up this battle, to be fair. He's still got a bit more to go if he wants to get involved in this one. And Hutchinson at 1.7 seconds clear, but the gap is swinging in the favour of Cassidy little by little. As meanwhile, Tim Perry, his last couple of laps have not been the strongest. I think Perry might be caught by the pair at this rate as they come charging on down. But Cassidy will know that he's going to pass 2 Altitude Frame Esports cars if he wants to take a 6th place in the Pro Class today. That's not going to be easy whatsoever. But in a way, as we continue this recap of where drivers are in the top 10 in each of their classes, Joris Petersveen is next in the Pro Class. And the GTE Sport Zenon driver, right now currently running in 9th place there. And the Dutchman, well, he did enjoy that fight with Hutchinson and Casti earlier on, but he did have a bit of a slower pit stop by comparison. But that combined with the fact his pace hasn't quite been with them since coming out the pit lane, and suddenly he finds himself a bit further away. But don't rule them out, he may be able to catch them up. And then it will be Davidus Lorenonis, who currently completes your Pro Top 10. But he is 11th on the road as the SRB Motorsport by Linda Vega driver. And well, he has got a 4-second gap to Armas Zelinskas, who is trying to chase after him right now for the SRB Motorsport team as well. But who exactly is in 10th place overall? Well, that's where we come to the Interclass. And here is your Inter leader of Cuda Academy, Mark Carlsberg, who right now the British driver for the sister team of Cuda Motorsport. He took pole position by staggering margin, took 5th place overall in qualifying, and he has lost a few places overall. But to be fair, he has not lost touch with the lead of the category, and right now is delivering an absolutely stalwart race. He has to come back to the best part there of what is 15.5 seconds before you do get to second in the Interclass. And this is the battle for second, one we're keeping our keen eyes on. And that is Victor Chamorro leading it, the privateer from Enosis Esports. But the Spaniard has the close company of Flavian Tiefri, the Valent Racing Team driver, still with them. But they've got Max Wheeler on the lead lap with them now. And Wheeler wants a bit of a role to play in this one. And Jan Lintz is 3.5 seconds behind. Now, what will Wheeler do here? Will he play a bit of an interfering role, or will he just be the patient driver, the 12th place pro runner? If I know Max well, he will most likely play a bit patient initially. When he sees the door is open as a good opportunity, he will try to blast his way through. But charging around down in towards turn number 2 at the moment. That BMW will be quick here with a double draft. That Corvette not looking too slow. TFE gets it closer and closer here. Now surely he's going to go for it this time. He is going to look around the outside in towards Tamburello. Can he beat the Corvette on the brakes? He'll get a nose slightly ahead there. Can he keep it to the inside of 3? Not quite. He understeers a little bit wide. And Victor Chamorro just holding on there. That was close. I think if TF3 had just been able to avoid that understeer, he could have had a chance to move. And Max Wheeler will credit where it's due to the three-wheeler racing driver. He is right now sat on the back of this. He is not interfering with it. The car behind him, that is a lap down car of Kai Hitchler, the man who missed the gridding procedure and started all the way from the back of the field due to a technical issue in the car. And well, meanwhile, as the ball run out the hairpin, and here comes Flavian Tiefri looking around the outside of Victor Chamorro. And I think he's going to get it this time towards Piratella Bend. Chamorro tries to look up the inside. Does he go in on the brakes? He tries to, but it's not enough. And Flavian Tiefri in the end moves into second in the Interclass. He gets it done through just sheer will and perseverance in the end, and finds a way to get Chamorro to make a small mistake out of toe. So that's all that was needed. Just lighten up the tyres too soon. And Flavian Tiefri into second place. But now can he break away? But in a big twist as well, ladies and gentlemen. Isaac Fairweather was into the pit lane. He was second in the pro class, and that is a black flag there for track limits and instant points, and therefore it does mean that right now Isaac Fairweather makes his way down. The Cuda Motorsport driver, well, he's picked up a drive-through penalty. He drops all the way down to 8th place, and will now, with 30 minutes to go here for Isaac Fairweather, this is suddenly going to become a race about aggression. This is not going to be a straightforward race anymore. Track limits at Imola and instant points come very quickly, and right now Fairweather is going to have to absolutely go. But remember, he doesn't have too many more instant points beyond that before he's at risk of a disqualification. So therefore he's got to be careful as there's a disqualification for Brian Beardsworth. I do not believe it. And well, we've seen 2 disqualifications today in the club class. Beardsworth, who was looking to try and make it a 1-2-3 for GPX Sim Sport, will saying the 1-2-3 is not possible. John Becker now takes 3rd place in the club class. He's still being chased by Dwayne Hoffman. And well, can Dwayne Hoffman find a way to get into 3rd place? Well, he's 30 seconds back at the moment, so he's a long way away. But to be fair, never say never. In fact, it's 13 seconds now that our time tower has been updated. But the point being that Dwayne Hoffman picks up another place. And well, it's now Gianluca Rospo who's going to move into 5th in the class. So there's still more twist in the tail here, ladies and gentlemen. And again, remember, we have a 60-minute race last time out. Here today, it's the first of 3 endurance race rounds of 90 minutes. And well, anything is possible to that checker flag, as Dwayne Hoffman does have the close presence there of Benjamin Massey looking to put a lap on him. And Hoffman steps aside there and lets the Inox Motorsport Porsche go. And as he does so, well, we're going to continue the recap story in terms of positions. As we talked about the Flavian Tiefri Victor Chamorro battle, and here is Jan Lint, 4th in the Interclass meanwhile, and he is still battling for 4th with Vidas Andruskevicius, and you can see there the Porsche driver from Lithuania chasing after the Germany's Corvette, a very colourful Corvette, it must be said. That special livery on the car, tribute to the sponsors there, and a little bit of a personal one for Jan as well. Loves the livery on the car, and we absolutely love it on it. There's Andruskevicius tries to pursue him. These two have been like this since pretty much the start of the race. And the SRB Motorsport driver, who won, of course, at Sebring in the Interclass, well, here today, he's definitely going to have a top 5 in his hands if he keeps this up. but can he go towards the podium? He's got some work to do if he wants that, although the two of them right now are lapping faster than Victor Shiboro, so never say never. They may just yet be able to chase down that podium. It could be a three-way fight for third place in the Interclass at the end of this race. Oliver Kemp, he sits in 6th in the category, 5 seconds behind, and right now still putting in a good job there for Concord Motorsport. He's really been one of the big heroes of today, and starting 8th place in the class initially, but lost a lot of places early on and has gradually got them back. So therefore it has been an up and down race, but to be fair, that's the way it sometimes goes, and he has got the best part of a 9-second gap to David Payne for Kudu Academy, who unfortunately did get caught up with Mark Kent's car that went wayward at the auto chicane early on, but the British driver did get the car repaired, and he has survived it ever since, and right now still making up some places. He's got a 10-second gap to Justin Noel. The American driver's been in the thick of the fighting with other class drivers as much as his own, but to be fair, he's enjoying himself out there and keeping it cool in the Corvette, and he does have the best part of a 5-second gap to Kevin Smith. And unfortunately for the Rhino Esports with the Edge Overlays driver, it's been a bit of a rough race after the qualifying session. He is in 9th in the category at the moment of Inter, and at this point, I think 9th is going to be where he's going to stay, unless he can find some pace at Noel and Payne, but he is comfortably ahead of Kwanli 2 by the best part of 10 seconds, who completes your Inter top 10, ahead of Robin Noel Brown, who will be best the rest. And we have recently, it would seem, lost Jordan Shamblin. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him. Well, the car's in the pit lane at the moment, and it will be Sebastian Schwerdberger who takes the place off of him, and Olivier Granier as well. These two, they are still fighting for 12th place in the Inter category, so they've still got some points on the line, but we have lost John Shamblin for some reason. I can't quite give you the story of that, ladies and gentlemen, but as they roar the way onwards, well, definitely a bit of change of foot there between these drivers. But as they all make the way around, well, we do see plenty more battling to come, and well, as we have Schwerdberger making his way on through, well, it is right now for the 2-2-3 drivers to try and find just that little bit more time out there. Now, we do see, one of you mentioned the fact that we do seem to have Sebring in the title of this broadcast. We can promise you it is definitely Imola, and that is a slight erroneous glitch, but we have just fixed that in the background for you, so thank you for pointing that out. Good sir in the chat. I do believe that's AJPKR, and well, every so often little things can happen. We do appreciate you spotting that for us. And as we do see Schwerdberger making his way on through, well, right now, can he hold off Olivier Granier for the rest of the race? We will see. He'll do everything he can here to open up the gap as best he possibly can. But from the Interclass, we then come to Club. And right now, after winning last out at Sebring, he has got there Robin Noel Brown, quite close to him, on what will be at the timings. But in terms of who's right behind him, that is going to be none other and then Sebastian Schwerdberger, he just put a lap on him. It is James Bostock right now, leading the club class, and with a 43-second gap, looking very much in control here, as Gareth Newton having a bit of a slow run through the chicane. I think Newton's had a bit of an error. In fact, can we get a quick replay of what's happened to the second place club driver? The answer is yes, we can, and here it is. So this is Newton making his way down towards the Tamburello chicane. Came in at full tilt as always, and in the end came a bit too hot, locked up the brakes and went straight on there. In fact, didn't look as though he locked up the brakes. It looks like the car just slid a little bit loose and then had to get it back together. So a small error from Gareth Newton, and well, I think there's been something else that's happened to him quite recently, but I'm not quite sure what. But that's the mistake Newton's made. That was a bit earlier on. Well, without further ado, we head back to live racing. And that gap between Bostock and Newton has definitely expanded quite a bit. And Bostock seems to be in very much control of that club class. And then we do have John Becker, currently 13 seconds behind, and he rounds off the podium at the moment. As he makes his way onwards, the Dutchman, the Valent Racing Team, getting ready for turn number 2 once again. And well, he's in a bit of a lonely place, but would you believe us when we say that this is a man who did not set a representative qualifying time? He started at 15th in the club class, and right now he is looking to be very much on course for another podium. Not quite a second place, and this is in 13 seconds to close down Gareth Newton, but definitely on course for back-to-back podiums here today, and the Dutchman has been absolutely brilliant. Dwayne Hoffman, well, after what has been a bit of a challenging mid-portion of the race, the Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport driver has made his way out through the field, having started all the way back in 16th in the club class. Indeed, didn't get a time on the board, much like John Becker, but has put together an absolutely brilliant package here. A top 5 is certain, but can he now find a way to bring on home what will be a podium? Well, to do so, he's going to have to try and find 17.5 seconds out there. Gianluca Rospo, currently running 5th in the club class. Looking good for Deeb Motorsport, the Italian driver. absolutely concise and consistent all the way through, and has a very comfortable gap over Ivan Halka, who is down in 6th place in the club class. He's definitely had a few spins here today, a bit of a frustrating day some would say, but he's been able to get things back together as best as he possibly can. And currently 6th with Mikel Salcuni, currently the last of your close runners here in the club class, and well, he's currently in 7th place, the Rhino Esport driver, who at one point was chasing the podium, but unfortunately did have to come into the pit lane due to damage on the car, and also had to come in for a 3rd trip to the pits for a drive-through penalty due to instant points. And the Italian driver seeing things go backwards more and more, but still in it to win it, as we always say. And then we do have Marcus Clayton, well, in fact not Marcus Clayton, Nathan Healy out there, currently running 8th for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, trying to pick up the pieces that were dropped by Mark Kent, as is his teammate Dwayne Hoffman. But the Irishman right now has definitely had another day where it really has been a rough day at the office, but still, there's plenty of points out there. He's going to gather some today, and knows there's more work to do. We lost Brian Beardsworth due to a disqualification for instant points, and therefore that will mean that at some point soon, Marcus Clayton will be moving from 10th place to 9th in the club class, and he is your current last run of the club drivers, as we have also lost along the way Matthew Massey, Jaden Innes with disqualification for instant points, Gavin Corby, Max Dean and Mark Kent. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's your rundown of the top 10s of each of the classes and the summary stories. And now we'll see in the final 21 minutes or so, as we do say hello, we forgot to say hello to them earlier, to Izzy Pop, cheering on the Altitude Frame Esports drivers. And we'll hope you're doing well. And we also do say hello there to none other than Jordan Stately, who has been cheering on Matt Massey and also the Full Tilt of Virtual Motorsport drivers. But back to the front we go, and well, hold the phone, because we've had a bit of a moment for Victor Shimaro. What's happened to the privateer? Now, he's got a meatball flag. That car looks okay, at least at first inspection. In fact, the more I look at it, that doesn't look to be a happy car. Something doesn't look right on it. It's bouncing around quite a bit on its suspension rods. I think the Spaniards had a knock with a curve at some point. We are going to get a replay very shortly what's to happen to Shimaro. And well, at the time, Max Wheeler simultaneously had an off track. Was there a connection between the two? Here we go back in time to find out. So this was Wheeler making his way through the auto chicane. Hopped over one curve, hopped over the second, came crashing down. It sent the car round, and then Shimaro came through the sea. Oh no! And for Victor Shimaro, in the end, reacting the wrong way, and the car going towards Matt Wheeler's rather than away from it, and that's where he's picked up the damage. It was the front bumping in that peeled off for a bit. It went back onto the car, but the damage was done to the front suspension. That's why it didn't look right. This is what it looked like from on board Victor Shimaro's car. So this was Shimaro making his way in towards the auto chicane. He's going to see Wheeler going sideways across the road. Decides to go left there. You could understand why. I think he thought Wheeler's car was rolling and spinning to the right. But Shimaro, by going to left, unfortunately put himself on a collision course there. Nothing he could do. Once he committed to that, that was it. And Shimaro, unfortunately, picking up the damage. And suddenly, well, that now means that Shimaro drops in the podium spots in the interclass. And Jan Lintz will pick up the podium position. But he's still got Vidas Andruskevicius right behind him. So there's still more to go between these drivers. This is not over yet for the fight for the podium in the interclass. It keeps swapping hands here, and remember, they are only 2 seconds off of Flavien Tiefri, whose pace recently has dropped quite significantly. In fact, that last lap, they both gained a whole second on Tiefri. We could still have a fight for second here on our hands. I think the lead of the interclass is safely in the hands of Carlsberg, so long as he doesn't make a mother of all mistakes at this point. But with everyone on the one-stop strategy here right now, this is all going to come down to action on the road. But speaking of other action on the road, well, Justin Noel, he finds himself ahead of Victor Shimaro after Shimaro's trip to the pit lane for a quick repair. Fast repairs are available, so that was literally a 1-second stop. As they head down, right now, Justin Noel's got the pressure of the Inosis Esports driver. Immediately looks up the inside there. That came from literally downtown, and there was elbows out there. Justin Noel would not be too happy about that. And I did not think he was expecting the move, and indeed, I don't think anybody was. But Shimaro came in there like a bull to a matador, and he's going to give the place up by the looks of things. I think Shimaro's lifted off immediately, realising that he was a bit too aggressive about that. That sportsmanship being shown there. And good on the Spaniard for doing so. Gives the place back to Justin Noel, and now we'll go battling with him once again. He resets the fight, although Noel won't be too pleased about the fact he was elbowed off the road, but they haven't lost any class positions. They've just lost overall positions to Benjamin Massey, and with a bit of race time. Remember, David Payne is currently 12 seconds up the road from this pair. He's the 6th place around the interclass, but Shimaro immediately giving up that spot back there and respecting the fact at the end of the day, there was a move on, but it was just a little bit too aggressive there. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out. But as we leave the B for a brief moment, we look back to Christian Ablasser, chasing after Robin Noel Brown for 29th overall. He's still got a little bit more time to go as the Austrian driver. It's been a very frustrating race for him, with a visit to the pits on the opening 4 laps of repair work. But right now, the Austrian driver picking things back up as best as he can. into that braking zone for turn number 2. And the 398 driver comes through left into right. And right now he'll take that place back. Well, he'll now look to go after James Bostock, the club class leader, who you can see there, right now minding his own business. He hops and skips his way through Villeneuve. As he does so, well, just behind him there, that is going to be, I believe, Isaac Fairweather trying to part the seam between the cars. Yes, it is, and Fairweather goes round one car, and I think Bostock's caught by surprise there, and the fact that Fairweather decided to go for the Moses manoeuvre through Tosa and almost made it work on both him, and also was the car just behind there. And that is the machinery. I do believe that is a further lap down of Olivier Granier. So Granier's 2 laps down to Bostock's 1 lap down. And this point gets very complicated because blue flags are waiting for both drivers of both Bostock and not Fairweather and also Granier, but they have to try and negotiate around each other. That is far from easy. But black flag for Justin Noel. That's at instant points. He comes into the pit lane. A drive-through penalty there. That's going to put him a long way down. That gives Shimura the place that he was looking for. But now that's going to promote Quanley 2 up the order as well. So Justin Noel's got a long trip. And well, as the WePay 300 Esports Giant comes on through. Right now, bringing with him Max Chambers. 2 drives in 2 different classes. And James here flashing his headlights, trying to say to him, look, I'm going to come on through. And Quanley 2 here just holding his racing line right now. They can fight for overall position if they want. But there's no extra points if they do so. This is a class points championship. And therefore, I think Chambers here quite eager to make his way on past as the Concord Motorsport driver getting closer and closer, coming through Villeneuve. But you can see the slight more confidence in line he has, a little bit slicker going from apex to apex. Of course, right now, being 3 tenths behind, he's not going to be able to make a move. But he takes a lot of curve there, and Quanley 2 in the end gives him all the space, and will backs off entirely there, letting Chambers go, and then tucks right back behind the British driver, and good awareness from both there to make that swap happen. But whilst they may be battling for overall position, or already swapping overall position, we should say, we come back to Pedro Luis da Silva, who has got Isaac Fairweather right with him now. And, well, Isaac definitely has been bold, he's been brash, and after the drive-through penalty, he's been absolutely on a road rash here as he charges his way up towards that turn number 8. Albeit fairly, he's made his way up the order thus far, but he's on the recovery drive. He wants 6th place back in Pro. Can he get it here? And he's got 15.5 minutes to go. The next target is Mark Hutchinson, who you see that off in the distance in his Ford GT. So therefore, it's not impossible to get back into the top 5 for Fairweather, but he's going to have to go some at this point. And his first target sits right in front of him as we ride on board here with the Cuda Motorsport driver as he gets ready to go into the braking zone. Is he going to be able to make it work? The answer is not here for Alta, and the back of Pedro Luis da Silva's car definitely has seen better days. So therefore, right now, I think that might be a Porsche in front that's definitely struggling a little bit. But as Fairweather heads his way down the hill, well, coming in towards that braking zone for Ravazza 1. I think he's thinking about going for it and then decides not to. He's going to try and go for the run instead, coming out to Ravazza 2. He'll get more momentum out of the corner, and that might be for the better. But coming out, he's going to lose Luis da Silva for a brief moment. And where is Luis da Silva? And the answer is Luis da Silva pulls the side there. So he suddenly disappears, lets the place go, returns to the ether, and Pedro Luis da Silva giving up the spot there. And Isaac Fairweather now up into 6th place. Next target will be Mark Hutchinson, 2 seconds up the road in the Ford GTE. So a different car there, and therefore different tactics may be required in order to facilitate a degree of a pass. Flavien Tieffry, right now currently running 2nd in the Interclass. He's not looking comfortable in 2nd because behind him, that's Jan Lintz and also Andres Kerechus. So therefore, all 3 of them have come together. And Mark Calsbear, meanwhile, enjoying his time at the very front of the field. He's not on camera. He's a long way out the road by comparison. But the fight for the final 2 podium spots in the Inter-category definitely right now up for grabs between 3 drivers. And well, it does mean, of course, that someone's going to lose out. As here comes Jan Lintz looking around the outside. Does he go for it? No, not quite in the end, because TF3 covers him off. But Lintz right now having his first shot at this. And he's going to look for another opportunity as we ride on board here with the Corvette driver. Now, when you look up the inside in towards Turn 5, the answer is going to be yes. However, this is more for pressure, trying to get Tieffry to make a mistake. The answer will be no error there. Flavien Tieffry right now, if he's not quick, there's one thing he's very good at doing, and that is being consistent. And remember, of course, this was the man who started his GTE Championship career at SimRacing International in what was originally our Evo class, but of course, well, in fact, our Inter class, but it became the Evo class this season, now the Club class. But the point being, he started there, asked after a couple rounds to be promoted up into the 2nd tier, which he raced in for this season. Now the Inter class, and well, definitely holding on for now. And TFE doing everything right, but the German driver of Jan Lintz behind also enjoying this, and it's a great back and forth between these two. And Andres Kerechus just watching. I wonder if the Porsche driver here is nursing a fuel problem, because he's fallen back a little bit over the last couple of laps. laps. Oh, that's sideways for Auto Chicane. And also, he might have a bit of a tyre problem if he's sliding loose like that. And, well, almost seeing that car go completely around. The SRB Motorsport driver would not want that. That is not a good sign of a mistake here. He's still got 13 minutes to go. I think those rear tyres right now seem better days. The front brake there glowing red hot, but you'd expect that coming down that hill. Indeed, that's not too unexpected. Always unexpected to see a big slide loose there coming for the Auto Chicane, but tyre wear's definitely come to him. Meanwhile, what has come to Mark Hutchinson right now is a bold and brash coup de Motorsport Porsche 911 RSR. And the Altitude 3M Esports driver trying to hold on here in the Ford GT, the special GTE prototype machine, as they make the way on through Piratella. And right now, the 391 driver trying to hold on just for a little bit longer. But where will Fairweather go for it this time? Of course, he cleared Luis da Silva, who will let it go to a degree. But coming out at Raleigh, you can see so much more confident through the low-speed corners. Hutchinson's going to have to go defensive here as they head up towards the Auto Chicane. The good news or bad news, depending on which way to look at it, they have got a lap-down car in front of them. That is going to be the car of none other than what will be, I believe that is going to be Marcus Clayton, who steps aside immediately there, and just Noah as well. Noah's missing piece on his car. We'll get a replay of that shortly, and that gives Hutchinson a bit of breathing room. But coming down the hill, Fairweather does not go for it. He's too far back to dare to lunge for that. But just Noah's picked up a lot of damage. I'm not quite sure what's happened to his car. We will get a replay of that shortly, but right now this battle is too important to leave behind as they power their way down that start-finish straight on to lap number 48 for these two. And Hutchinson holding on, but that Porsche closer and closer it gets here. First, it screams the naturally aspirated flat six-cylinder machinery right now, actually pushing on as much as humanly possible. And when he looks one way, then the other looks the inside in towards the Tamarilla chicane. Hutchinson on that racing line, they're just able to stay ahead, and that's where the Ford is stronger. It just has a little bit more speed carry through those medium-speed chicanes, and that's the difference there. He'll have the same coming in towards Villeneuve, but it's the lower speed corners where Fairweather gets so much more traction. Toaster coming up is going to be a great example of this, as in Fairweather will get the mother of all runs out as we ride aboard the dashboard for the Australian driver, and going up through that hairpin. Well, now you can see, look at the confidence he takes out the corner. It's almost as if he's in a different time zone with the speed he's carrying through there, and will making his way up towards turn number 8 right now. We're getting medium speed corners. This is more the bread and butter of the Ford, just about. But now coming to Ackerman and Raleigh, we'll again see Fairweather. If he gets as good a run as he did previously, he'll be right there, because onto the brakes they come. Look how much he's closing up there. Constantina effect does apply, but the point is he gains a couple of attempts back there straight away, and it's only because of the medium speed capabilities that Hutchinson is using in that Ford GT that he's able to just stay ahead. If Fairweather can get a good run from one of these medium speed corners and Hutchinson does not, then suddenly that move is definitely going to be on. But 10 minutes still to go. Leader goes on to lap 49. Ansell carrying on with Wilson Liu 11 seconds by him. So lead battle is definitely spaced out enough to the point to being secure, as we do have a black flag and a drive-through penalty for Max Wheeler for instant points. So more drive-through penalties may be creeping in before this race is said and done. But Fairweather this time, he was 2.4 attempts off the back of Hutchinson. The last time he came into the start finish straight, it's the exact same once again. But as he gets closer and closer, that gap comes down. Now he's got to pick, where will he go for it? Will he force Hutchinson to defend to the inside this time? And the answer is going to be yes, he does. And then switch to the outside, last possible point, goes late on the brakes. 2-1, they go in, and Fairweather goes around the outside to the inside. They touch, and then he's going to send Hutchinson gliding to the gravel, and as he goes sliding off, he rejoins there. But that's going to be Pedro Luis da Silva and also Ryan Cassidy taking the place off him, and Hutchinson is in the end going to lose out. But Isaac Fairweather will be disqualified because he already had a drive-through penalty, and that contact blasted off track sends him over the drive-through penalty and disqualification limit, and Fairweather is out of this race. I don't believe it right now. We could see more drives fall out of this one with drive-throughs, with disqualifications. Indeed, they're all coming, and with that contact in, Hutchinson will be fuming at that, and then he'll suddenly realise he's just been given a place back, but it won't repair the fact that now 5th place in the hands of the Portuguese of GTE Sports Zenon's Luis da Silva, with Ryan Cassidy close by, and he'll be hoping these two are going to fight each other. Meanwhile, whilst all that's going on, well, we look to none other than Andrews Kevicius, who was caught back up to Jan Lintz after Lintz wasn't able to find his way past Flavin Tiefri, and well, it went a little bit wrong for Kevicius, but he seems to have got his confidence back immediately, and right now he's really going on the attack here. Black flag to Benjamin Matthews, well, that's a drive-through also there for Schwerdweger, who made his way all the way up to 34th place. He's going to be sent a long way down the order again, and well, that's going to feel as though he's run up the stairs and suddenly been knocked back down. But still, that's the way it sometimes goes. It feels as though he's in a bit of a travelator. As we do see Andrews Kevicius still trying to bring back 3rd place in the interclass back into his hands. He's got not long left to do this, but the problem is if he fights now, then Flavien Tieffry might be able to make a bit more progress. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen here. And, well, with regards to this battle, does Andrzejewicz just go for it? I think he has to. I don't think Linz has got the pace anymore on Tieffry. I think Tieffry is gapping now, and I think Linz is losing out. So if you look to the Valent Racing Team driver, coming on down the hill in towards the braking zone for Rivazza 1. And, well, yeah, you can see Linz, the gap between the two. Absolutely close between these two drivers. And looking back from the rear of the German car right now, well, yeah, I think it's going to be a question of when, not if, this move is coming in. The SRB motorsport car gets closer and closer. It looks the inside, going for the kick of 17. It's going to be too wide here as the overspeed builds. Lynch will go defence in the middle of the road. They come underneath the gantry. Just Noah leaves the pit lane, but he won't have any role to play in this one. Personal best lap of the race there, 39.047 for Andrzejewicz. Tries to go around the outside to the inside. He does it. What a lovely move. And Lynch immediately now goes back with the attack here as they come through turn number 4. And Lynch there giving him just enough space. And in the end, Andrzejewicz just needed those millimetres. He was given them. And, well, that has got to be a contender for the move of the day. And, well, Lynch did not make it easy. But right there, we saw a 293 drive, the winner from Sebring, the Interclass, show why he was your winner at Sebring. He has got the ability to make those moves happen. And now, with 7 minutes to go, 1.9 seconds to Flavien Tieffry. Can Tieffry hold on for the run-up spot here, or will we see Vinus Andrzejewicz find a way to get back at him? Well, we'll have to see, because there's just a bit of time left. Oliver Kemp as well is only 3 seconds off the back of that group, and I suspect it is going to be a game whereby Kemp is going to go on the attack here as much as he can. He's got plenty of space to Payne, so therefore he's not got to worry about the threat from behind. All he's got to worry about is seeing whether he can gain a couple more places. But still, as he carries on, well, are there any other battles out there? Yes, there is, because this is going to be around Cassidy up the inside of Luis da Silva. And I think Luis da Silva, with the damage to the car, he's given up places there, given the fact he's just got no pace in the rear of the car. He hasn't got a car that can fight too hard. So Cassidy now up into 5th place in Pro. I don't know if he expected that today, given the fact he started 8th, and saying those places are coming to him little by little. But rolling the way through that second chicane. Well, now Cassidy has got 7 seconds to Tim Perry. I think Perry's going to be safe at the moment because Cassidy's pace is not as strong as Perry's. In fact, if anything, it's actually a bit slower. And Luis da Silva trying to come back here. But I think this is more just the slipstream at this point rather than any notable counter-attack in towards Piratella Bend. So they stay as they were. And, well, Fairweather gradually dropping down the order without the disqualification applying. We will see a few drivers promoted overall. And quite a few pro drivers gaining some places and some points with it. That's the way it has gone there. But we've now had a grand total of 3 disqualifications in this race for going over the disqualification point limit in terms of instant points. And Fairweather in the company of Beardsworth and also Innes. And they'll be a bit frustrated at that. But that's the rules, unfortunately, for them. And that's the way it does go. But still a bit more time to go. And Philip Ansell right now, well, he's definitely not at risk of anything at the moment, it would seem. 11.6 seconds is his lead. He is being equalised on pace right now by Wilson Liu and also Christophe Dubois. And Dubois, actually, where was this pace earlier on in the race? I wonder whether he's unlocked some pace over the course of the race today, because he's now lapping as well as what is the 2 leaders. Now, again, it could be that Ansell and Liu have both backed off, but we also may be seeing a bit of a hidden strength for the Corvette once again. This was a strength in Season 1, which was its long-term pace, and Dubois right now does seem to be the quickest driver out there on pace towards the very end here. Now, he did not change tyres in the pits. Nobody did. In fact, let me correct myself there. He did, I think, change a tyre because he did have an 8-second longer pit stop compared to Liu and Ansell and also the drivers behind him. So I wonder whether the team decide to change a tyre. Which one would it be? Well, given the fact that this circuit does run, if my memory serves me correctly, it runs anti-clockwise. I would imagine on that Corvette they've changed the right side tyre, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's the rear right tyre they've changed, just to help with traction out to likes of Tosa Hairpin and also the Rivazza Bend. So that might be why Dubois right now is really lapping quickly, because that tyre life he's got on that rear right tyre is helping out just that little bit more. But coming on through, we do say hello there to Cygnus 9421. And, well, all of you discussing there the battle between what was Isaac Fairweather and also Mark Hutchinson, and the disqualification there, which was down to instant points rather than any live stewarding, which is not in effect in this race. as we do see Christophe de Bar heading on. Well, meanwhile, we come back to Cassidy and Luis de Silva, and de Silva definitely falling back little by little. So it does seem as though the battle for fifth has settled to a degree, but we still come back here to none other than Deridas Loriones, who's trying to find a way past Oliver Kemp for 15th place overall. And Kemp right now just enjoying his time in fifth in the interclass. And we're 3-2-4 there of SRB Motorsport by Lint Vegas Loriones. Knowing if he gains this place, it doesn't help in his pro campaign. What it does do is just make him feel a little bit better perhaps, as he'll be seeing Taras Vosberg in his sights, who's the 10th place finisher at this rate in the pro class, and will perhaps be able to chase him down with a couple of laps to go. In what is the club class, meanwhile, it's all looking green for James Bostock at the moment. The GPX Insport Onyx driver still leading ahead of John Becker, and Becker has found his way ahead of Gareth Newton, and that's happened as a result of Newton having a bit of difficulty. So Becker right now, given where he started, the fact he's gained all of these places, and I think he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that, and this was how he got past Gareth Newton. And this was the run of the two drivers. So this happened a few laps ago, in fact, and it was heading up towards the Alta chicane. So this was a move made on the road. It was not Newton making an error. This was Becker going all in, and in the end just brushing his way on past, and Newton not really having a response there other than to let it go. I think Gareth Newton might be just simply targeting finishing third today and guaranteeing a podium, but Becker up into that podium position of second place, and the Valiant Racing Team driver right now will be absolutely ecstatic about that. He's not got long left, but right now everything is clicking together very nicely for him in that 1-2-1. But powering the way down, and right now not much further for him to go, indeed for many of these drivers to go. And well, we are heading towards the final laps. We are onto the penultimate lap here for our race leader, and Philip Ansell's just got a little bit more distance to go, but I suspect for him right now he's going to be pleased with how this is going, and the Cuda Motorsport driver at this point knows he doesn't need to risk it anymore. All he needs to do is keep it together, and with that it is all going to work out and all be smiling. It'll be 2 wins in a row, and indeed right now I think he is going to try and become this season's Mirko Bortolotti, if you will, whereby in every race he attends he is going to be the winner in his class. Well, if he can do that, that would be an absolutely huge achievement, but of course we'll monitor it one race at a time. There's a long way to go in this season, and therefore that will be his game plan, take it step by step. But in a twist, John Becker has picked up a black flag for instant points, and that is suddenly going to cause him with a drive-through penalty. If he doesn't serve it on the road come the end of this lap, he will get, I believe, around a 40 to 50 second post-race time penalty. That most certainly is going to put him behind Gareth Newton. It could even see Dwayne Hoffman promoted onto the podium in the club class. Well, that's a late twist. That's not a good one for Valiant Racing Team, and I suspect in the end he's just pushed a little bit too hard at a corner when he's only got 1 instant point left, and unfortunately small mistakes, they all add up, and this one's definitely added up, as we have had also disqualification for Hauke from this race, and well, the 7th place runner in the club class will be dropping down the order, and Nathan Healy will be taking that place off of him before the end of the race. So another bit of a moment there. But final lap gets underway then for Philip Ansell. Here he goes onto the 55th and final tour of the circuit today of the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari. And right now with Wilson Neo and Christophe de Bar not close enough to really attack him at this point, I think things are definitely going to be settled. But as we do see Pedro Luis de Silva currently running in 5th place, a little bit further behind, with Rian Casti just in front of him. Well, I think these two are settling the differences. Luis de Silva goes wide. It's a black flag for him as well. And the GPX Insport Xenon driver, he's got to drop behind. Actually, it goes even worse. I don't believe it, as the car goes spinning round. And Mark Hutchinson at this point, well, he's going to find out very soon. He's going to be the beneficiary of another place being gained here. And I do not believe it. It all goes wrong for Luis de Silva right towards the end of the day. And right now, that's going to be a trip to the pit lane there. It's going to be so much more bruising, as Hutchinson will take a place back, but he won't finish in top 5, given the fact he lost out to Rian Cassidy following the contact with Fairweather, but at least he takes 2 of the 3 places he lost back, so there's some recompense there. Meanwhile, oh no, surely he's not out of fuel. We know he's going slowly there. It's Amos Zelinskas. Well, he drops down to 13th. Not quite sure what the story is there, but it goes a bit backwards. The SRB Motorsport by Lint Vega driver. I thought he'd run out of fuel and was just in fact, he's giving up places here. I wonder if he doesn't have enough fuel to get to the end. I wonder if he's giving up spots. He's having to give up places to make sure that he finishes the lap down. And so Philip Ansell will come out the final corner, and with this, Akuda Motorsports pole sitter, it's going to be back-to-back victories today. A dominant display from the Swede. He's going to be smiling to the bank. Victory it is in the pro class for Philip Ansell, and in the end, 12.5 seconds behind him, it will be Wilson Liu, who's runner-up here for WePay 300 Esports, making it another second place in a brilliant battle between him and Isaac Fairweather in the first half of the race. Christophe de Bois will then come home shortly, and he'll be bringing on home none other than what will be your third place on the road overall and in the pro class on the live sim racing drive. He's had a quiet race, he's had a lonely one, but to be fair, it's been a good one, and he will take his first podium of the season as he heads towards the line, and he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that with the Frenchman. You can see the happiness as he weaves the car to the timeline. It's then going to be Tim Perry who takes fourth, miss out on the podium, but the Altitude for him esports drive will still be pleased with this, and then we will see 7 seconds behind him Ryan Cassidy, who completes the top 5 overall in pro. But from the team Endurotech driver who had a solid race, it's then Mark Hutchinson battling around the outside of Mark Carlsberg here. These two are fighting to the very end. He's going to take 6th place overall from what will be Carlsberg. Will he? No, because here comes the interleader, and well, for Carlsberg, he doesn't need the overall place, but he's going to take it either way. And the Acudi Academy driver dominates today, makes amends what happened at Sebring, takes his first win of the season in the Interclass, 6th overall, ahead of Mark Hutchinson and Joris Peters-Veem, who comes across the timeline in 8th. We'll then see Pedro Luis da Silva coming home for GP Extreme Xenon behind his sister team driver in 8th place in Pro, 9th overall. And then it is going to be Flavin Thierry behind, runner up there in the Interclass, just ahead of Vidas Andruskevicius. And in the end, the two of them separated by only 4/10 of line in the brilliant battle for the podium spots. And Jan Lynch just missing out in 12th place there, but the Gazix Racing Team driver enjoying it. Shout out to James Bostock. He's finished a lap down the GP Extins for Onyx Drive. He makes it 2 from 2 in the club category. The British driver there will be absolutely ecstatic about that. Although I think he'll be gutted to find out it's not a 1-2-3 for GP Extins Sport, but it is a 1-2 because Gareth Newton, a lap down for GP Extins Sport Vertex, recovers that 2nd place. He lost in the end with John Becker taking the drive-through penalty, but Becker will finish 3rd in the club class in the end for Valent Racing Team. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, as all the drives cool them down, well, definitely a very interesting race there over the 90 minutes. Plenty of twists, plenty of turns, and whether it be on strategy, in battles, or alternatively instant points adding up to mid-race penalties. And as everyone makes their way on through, well, SRB Motorsport by Lindvega wanting to get a group photo together there, and in particular, really enjoying and celebrating what was the achievements of Andrus Kevicius with that absolutely brilliant run to 3rd place in the end. The SRB Motorsport driver enjoying himself, as he Justin Earl there, I think, having a bit of a conversation with what was one of the SRB Motorsport cars, and the two of them having a little bit of a door rub between each other here and being cheeky with each other, but we're going to leave them, ladies and gentlemen. They need their own space. And well, we look to Wilson Liu, and well, he parks up on the start finish line alongside in the 2-1-2 there, Quanley 2, 8th in the end in the inter category. And the We Pay 300 esports team will be pleased with the points here in the teams championship. A good haul today, and plenty more to come perhaps, as meanwhile James Bostock calls them down, surrounded by the GPX Simsport cars, and now it's 2 from 2 here. Is this going to be a magical season for him? Well, at least so far everything is looking sunny. But also big shout out here to the man who was celebrating, Gianluca Rospo. He was doing some donuts for his 5th place in the club class, and as they all cool him down, well, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see in the end, round number 2 of the SimRacing International GTE Championship Season 2, brought to you on iRacing today from the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari, was full of fighting action. But at the very front, there was little fight to be had for Philip Ansell, who dominated the day and took victory for GTE Motorsport by 12.3 seconds. Behind him, Wilson Liu for We Pay 300 Esports and Christophe de Bois for Live Sim Racing, a third 20 seconds behind, and they completed your top 3 overall and in pro. Well done to our 3 overall podium finishers. Tim Perry took full for Altitude 3 Esports, just ahead of Ryan Cassidy, and what a drive from the Irishman in the end for Team Endurotech, gradually making his way up through the field. And then we did see in 6th place there your interclass winner of Mark Carlsberg, who in the end for Cuda Academy started on the 3rd row of the grid, looked untouched when qualifying in his class, and was untouchable over the race distance, and gave up places willingly to pro drives earlier on, but got them back as the pros ahead of him made mistakes. Mark Hutchinson unfortunately elbowed into a mistake in his side-by-side battle with Isaac Fairweather coming through the Tamburello chicane, but was able to recover some of the places back right at the very end, and the Altitude 3M Esports driver 4 seconds ahead of Joris Peters-Veem. Peters-Veem enjoyed a good battle with Hutchinson early on, but in the end only was able to finish ahead of his teammate from GPX Simsport Xenon and Pedro Luis da Silva. And we saw Flavien Thierry round off the top 10 there for Valent Racing Team. And well, the Frenchman in the end round off that top 10 and 2nd in the interclass. Vidas Andruskevicius round off the top 11 there, best of the rest for SRB Motorsport, albeit just behind by 4 attempts to the end, and 3rd in the intercategory. Head of Jan Lintz was a further 2nd behind, and then we did see Taras Vosberg there in 13th for SRB Motorsport, ahead of the sister team SRB Motorsport by Lint Vegas, Davidas Loinonis. Top 15 was completed by Oliver Kemp there, who was close to a podium in the Interclass, but took 5th in Class Day for Concord Motorsports. And it was a lap down there for Leopard Esports' Renee Maurer, as it was for Aramas Zelinskas, Victor Shimaro, David Payne, Max Chambers, and outside that top 20 in 21st place, Benjamin Massey. The Inox Motorsport driver having a bit of a challenging day at the office, particularly with a couple of early offs. The lap down feature continued with quality 2 for We Pay 300 Esports ahead of Kevin Smith, and we did see Max Wheeler, Chad Henson, and Robin Noel Brown completing your run to 26th. Before we then did come to GPX SimSport Onyx's James Bostock, your club class winner there, making it 2 from 2, and the British driver well clear of his rivals. Kai Hitchler took 28th after starting from the back of the field with a technical issue on the grid, ahead of Justin Noel, and the priority just to the Christian Ablasso completed the top 30. But behind the Gazex Racing team, it's 1-2 for GPX SimSport Vertex, and Gareth Newton there round off that 1-2 in the club class, ahead of John Becker for Valent Racing team, who the late drive-through meant that he finished in 3rd in the class, but still another podium there, making it 2 podiums in 2 races. Dwayne Hoffman was close to a podium at the very end, but given the fact he started all the way from the back of the club class, I think you'll be pleased as punch there to be 2 laps down, but 4th place in club, in 33rd for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, ahead of Sebastian Schwerdtfeger. And then we did see Gianluca Rospo complete the top 5 of the club drivers of Deeb Motorsport, ahead of Olivia Granier, Mikel Salcuni, I should say, as I stumble over my name. Now I did it right the first time, but it stumbled out of my mouth eventually. And the Verano Esport drive 3 laps down, but 2 ahead of Nathan Healy for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, who didn't give up. And unfortunately, we did see a late disqualification for Ivan Hopka, ahead of the disqualified Isaac Fairweather, and the Cuda Motorsport driver 40th, ahead of what was disqualifications for a few other drivers, but not so for Marcus Clayton, and John Shamblin 42nd ahead of Brian Beersworth, who was disqualified from the race, and Matthew Massey 44th there with a mid-race retirement due to a technical issue with the car, we believe. A disqualification it was for Jaden Innes, and then we did see Gavin Corby, Max Dean, Mark Kent, John Ludbrook, Andrew Fellows, Patrick Dane, and Craig Tillotson all complete those who did not finish the race. We're then coming to individual class finishing positions, because this is where the points are paid and made. And as we see starting with Pro, well, it was victory for Philip Ansell in the end. A dominant victory, 2 from 2 so far. Wilson Yu making it 2 second places in a row, and Crystal Tabar taking his first podium of the season. And well done to the Cuda Motorsport, We Pay 300 Esports, and Live Sim Racing drivers. Tim Perry just missed out on the podium, couldn't quite make it back-to-back podiums, but did take a 4th place there for Altitude Frame Esports. He was 8 seconds behind the podium, but 7 seconds ahead of Ryan Cassidy's team Endurotech Porsche. And then we did see the Ford GT of Altitude Frame Esports, Mark Hutchinson, resuscitate his race to a 6th place finish. Joris Peters Veem took 7th there for GPX SimSport Xenon, ahead of Pedro Luis da Silva, and it was Talos Vosberg and Davidas Lorenonis for SRP and Motorsport, who then completed that top 10. Best of the rest of the length, Renee Maurer, a lap down for Leopard Esports, but picking up some valuable points ahead of Aramas Zelinskas. They enjoyed a good battle early on, and then we did see Max Chambers in 13th place ahead of Benjamin Massey, with Max Wheeler completing the top 15 in a race where he was inside the top 10 for three-wheeler racing, but a drive-through penalty and an error midway through sent him a long way back. Chad Henson finished in 16th ahead of Kai Hitchler. They were a lap down, as was Christian Ablasser, and the sole retiree slope disqualified car from the race was Isaac Fairweather there in the pro class, with 19th place for Cuda Motorsport. Then to the interclass we go. And in the second of our classes, well, we got to see Mark Kelsbear there in victory condition in the end for Cuda Academy. And indeed, with that dominant pole lap and in the end in control of the race route, it may have been a foregone conclusion, but he had to keep it safe over 90 minutes and did exactly that. Flavien Tieffri held on to second in the end, did a brilliant job there. You could say it was a valiant job from the Valent driver. And, well, behind him was Vidas Andruskevicius, who was only a second adrift, if that, at the very end. Behind the SRB Motorsport driver, it was then a further 1.3 seconds to Jan Lintz for Gazex Racing team, head of Oliver Kemp in 5th place for Concord Motorsport. What a drive from him, to be fair, to come all the way through for a top 5. And then we saw a lap down there to Victor Chamorro, the privateer from Spain, Ferocious Esports, ahead of David Payne, the Cuda Macado driver, who found some pain on the car earlier on. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite able to repair it until the midway point of the race, but he was ahead of Quality 2 for We Pay 300 Esports, and Kevin Smith of Rhino Esports of Edge Overlays and GPX SimSport Vertex's Robin Noel Brown completed the Inter top 10. Just Nell took 11th place there, best of the rest, a lap ahead of Sebastian Schwerdtfeger. And then we did see a further lap down to Olivia Granier for Live Sim Racing, although he did have some brilliant battles early on in the race. And then Jordan Shamblin, John Ludbrook, and Patrick Dane were your retirees, completing your 16 classified cars. Then to the club class we go, the last but by no means least category. And here we see James Bostock makes it 2 results ahead, 2 wins we should say, back-to-back ahead of his GPX SimSport Vertex sister car of Gareth Newton. They'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. Indeed, a 1-2 for GPX SimSport today, and then John Becker 3rd for Valent Racing Team, and well, back on the podium once again. Dwayne Hoffman took 4th for Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, and was the last driver to finish what was a lap down in terms of the race. And it was further 2 laps, well, it was 2 laps down there for Gianluca Rospo, who rounded off the top 5. The Italian just ahead of his fellow countryman of Michele Salcuni, but the Deep Motorsport driver taking the 5th place ahead of the Renault Esports car. And it was full tilt virtual motorsports Nathan Healy, a further 2 laps behind, 4 laps down from the lead lap, but to be fair, surviving and taking 7th place. It was then Ivan Helpka, who was disqualified down to 8th, the privateer, just ahead of Marcus Clayton for Renault Esports Edge Overlays, and Brian Beardsworth, also disqualified, completed the top 10 for GPX Simsport Onyx. Matthew Massey, best dressed in 11th place ahead of Yaden Innes, the final disqualifiee from the club class for Cuda Motorsport. And then it was early retirements for Gavin Corby, for Max Dean, Mark Kent, and also Andrew Fellows and Craig Tillotson. And that is how the race ended for the club class. Remember, all this, of course, subject to any stewards' inquiries. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, the racing may have stopped, but this broadcast isn't quite going to stop just yet, because coming up in approximately 5 minutes' time, we'll be catching a word or two from our volunteer post-round interview drivers. But until then, do let us know what moments of this race you enjoyed the most in the YouTube chat, and we'll be back in approximately 5 minutes' time, if not sooner, for our post-round interviews. And definitely, you won't want to miss them. We will see you very soon. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener as Sardply gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis immediately go on the attack into the braking zone. 1 drive into the grass already, that's Mikey Story, but 3 wide they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M Esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1, and as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3, and Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there in 3 to the inside of 4 then, and Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the two of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the two Ford, for the Ford and the Corvette, the 2 Americans I should say. And
with those 2 Evo drivers in front of them, they're just, they're basically in a completely different race. They're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wendling. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardiak, up high, he decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. But look at this, for the lead, Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green, and as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him, but look behind, Tim Perry under pressure and Miguel Leon immediately as the Enosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back we've got 3, 4 wide, they're all in the crush as they come through the opening bay. Look back for the rear of your second place runner Statman, and Statman right now for the Gazex Racing team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second, and if needed, he may have to act as a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race for the race leader here. Although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back, but here comes Lux in the tow, in towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way, and it's 2 wide on entry, but Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to 3rd, but Callum Lux does clear another one, and now only 1 car is between him and an opportunity of victory here tonight. Which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being 2 wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside. Does Edwards think about going up the inside as well? He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think meanwhile Beardsworth will hope they don't get close up in time as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillerson's going to come back at him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth at the end, he gets it wrong. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillerson's going to be 2 wide with him, but 2 wide they're going to turn 7. Tillerson goes on the switch back there. 9 is no way through, and in the end they come down towards turn number 8. Well, there Tillerson backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And we're going to kick off today by speaking to a winner, but not quite the winner in our pro class straight away. Instead, we're going to be coming to our interclass winner today, because joining me now, very shortly in the interview room, will be none other than Mark Kalsbert, and we'll get to hear the story of his absolutely dominant win. In fact, he's ready to go, we're ready to go, so let's bring him on in, ladies and gentlemen, and he joins us now. Good evening to you, Mark, and what a round for yourself. It all went a bit wrong at Sebring when you were looking so good on pole position there, but here today, pole position dominated the race, and it looked as though it was the perfect race at Imola.
Yeah, good evening. I mean, I guess it was. I think Sebring was a bit too kind at the start, is what all my teammates told me. But I just bottled the starts this week. I think my helped with the narrow track. Just kind of, I was slightly more aggressive, just tried to not let too many people past, and then I guess everyone behind me started fighting, I guess, and then I just, yeah, kind of cruised in a way. It definitely didn't feel like that. My heart was going the whole way throughout, still going now.
Oh, fair play. Well, the adrenaline may still be flying, and hopefully this interview will give you a chance to let the heart rate slow down a little bit. In terms of qualifying next, it's interesting you should say about the fact that perhaps you weren't expected to be able to run away. Were you surprised then about the fact you qualified 5th? And for the first 20 minutes of qualifying, you were actually on the front 2 rows of the grid.
Yeah, I mean, I was very surprised. I was waiting for everyone to you know, kind of pass me. It was a very good lap in all the practices I'd done. My best was a 37.8, so I did a 37.9, which I was really happy with. But yeah, I kind of peaked way too early. I was trying to chase that throughout the rest of the qualifying, but it felt like a great lap, so I'm not going to complain.
Oh, fair play. Well, great lap to be fair. Perhaps one of your finest that you've done at Imola to date. But still, with that good lap in the race, like you say, kept it calm, kept it smart. But with multiple pro drivers between yourself and your interpeers, how did you plan to navigate that? Because, of course, you're not battling with them for any points, but they act as a good rear guard in case any inter drivers get close.
Yeah, so I think that's what kind of happened. If the pro drivers wanted to dive me, a few of them kind of dived me from a little bit back. I was just, you know, let them go. They're not my race. But I think there was a couple behind me for like most of the race, and I think one was at the start of like a train of quite a few of the inner cars. So that was quite nice because I could see him on the relative, and that gap was kind of maintaining. So that was nice. And yeah, just kind of keep it on the track. Don't do anything stupid, because I've done it a few times in practice where I've just locked up and then you can't do anything and you go straight across the track. So that was my main focus. I wasn't trying to push it too much, kind of conserving the tyres, and then if anyone kind of caught me up at the end, maybe I'd push a bit more, sort of thing.
I see. So driving quite conservatively, and it did work out for yourself. I mean, your pace in the end, it was perhaps matched at certain points, but it was never surpassed. And like you noted earlier, we did see a really big battle build up for second and third between Flavin Thierry, Andrus Kevicius, and also Lintz. As the race went on, of course, it being a 90-minute race here, strategy was going to be important. Did you pit when you planned to pit, or did you improvise your strategy?
I saved a little bit of fuel. I kind of wanted to see what everyone else was doing with tyres, because we were kind of not panicking. I was panicking. I don't think all my teammates were about the tyre situation. I didn't think we needed tyres. It didn't feel too bad. I've done quite a few of the hour-long sprint races throughout the week, but we were kind of like, do we take tyres? Do we not? So that was a bit of a panic. So I was just kind of conserving. I was trying to see what everyone else did, and it seemed like everyone wasn't taking tyres. So made that decision easy, and I was very thankful for that, because yeah, I didn't want to be on the alternate strategy and then lose a lot of time, because you lose, I think it was like 30 seconds in the pit lane by changing tyres. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't have made that up if I changed. So that was a good decision by everyone.
Oh, without a doubt, a good decision by yourself and the team. And as we saw you go deeper towards the end of the race, we did see a few drivers pick up black flags and even disqualifications for instant points. How are you looking on instant points? Because we know Imola's one of those nasty circuits.
I think I had 5 at the end. I got a couple on the last few laps, but I think just being really conservative, I wasn't pushing the track limits too much. Because I know, yeah, quite a few people, and a lot of my practices I've been going off left, right and centre, so I just thought if I'm about to go off track, just slow down a little bit. It's not really worth it for that added stress towards the end of the race.
Oh, 100%. And the very well judged race from yourself in the end meant that you came home victorious by quite the comfortable margin. I mean, it must have felt quite a... Was it a surprise to yourself when you crossed the line thinking, I've just won that race and I haven't had to battle because I've just been in complete control?
I mean, very much so. I think it helped at the start, kind of keeping quite a few of the pro drivers behind me, kind of backing up the rest of the inners, because the pace difference, they were probably lapping quicker than me towards the end, to be fair. So, yeah, I mean, very surprised. I'm very surprised myself for keeping it on the track. So, yeah, I'm very, very happy. I didn't expect it at all coming into this.
Well, you definitely deserve to be happy, and the fact that you didn't expect it goes to show now that you've got that momentum. It may not work out at Sebring because you played it a bit safe, but here today you got it just right. So can we expect you to get it just right when we head to Bathurst next round?
I'm not sure. It's a very, obviously very narrow track, very tricky track. I'll end up doing maybe something stupid, but other people might end up doing stuff stupid. It's a track that I've raced a little bit. I did the 12-hour race on iRacing, whenever that was, a month or so ago, which my pace was, it felt kind of alright. I don't mind the track. It's just very sketchy in place. I've never driven it in the GTE, so that'll be fun. But yeah, hopefully I'll be up there. But I don't know. I'm very happy just to have won one race. So
Oh, fair play. We look forward to seeing what you can do next time out at Bathurst and whether you can start to build a win streak or at least a podium streak. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
I think everyone's watching. I think my parents are watching for some reason. I think my sister's watching. My girlfriend's watching. I don't know why. But yeah, I guess shout out them. Also shout out my manager, Jacob Jenner, as I think we're all gonna shout him out. I don't know why I'm shouting him out. He can get a shout out, but yeah, I mean shout out to all my team. It's very helpful, especially in practice. Just picking up a few bits here and there, just how to go a bit quicker in every corner, carrying a little bit more speed. Obviously setups are very helpful as well, because I don't have a clue what's going on with car setups, so they provide it to me. I go, yeah, that feels alright, and then I drive. But yeah, just it's everyone's win, not just my win.
Oh, fair play. Well, like you say, it takes a team to be able to get the car on the grid, but in the end, one person has to get the job done and deliver all those laps, and that was you today, Mark. Congratulations on a brilliant victory, your first of the season. We look forward to seeing if you can make it more as time goes on, but until then, savour it, enjoy it, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Take care.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Mark Carlsbad. And I did love that at the end, giving the thank you to all the family tuning in. And hello to you all if you are still tuning in right now and enjoying that interview. I absolutely enjoyed speaking to him, no doubt about it. And really honest with the racing today. A bit modest as well, to be fair. And, well, perhaps surprised himself. But and taking the advice from the team, which was to focus on being just that little bit more aggressive at the start of the race. And I think that lack of aggression, like you said, let him down at Sebring, because whilst he didn't get caught up directly in the big instance at Sebring, where he played it so safe, he lost places and he lost time and he lost pace. But because he decided today to really lock in nice and early, it actually helped out Mark considerably. Now, of course, that pole lap, a monster pole lap. He was even surprised himself at how quick he was in the early stage of the qualifying. The fact it was still good enough for fifth at the very end of the session, well, that told you he was onto a winner today. But then played it smart, played it cool, let the pro drivers gradually come past when they wanted to dive on him, but did not put up a fight. And in the end, well, he didn't have to put up a fight versus any of the inter drivers either, because he was in control. Doesn't rate these perhaps going to make it back-to-back wins at Bathurst. Indeed, it'll be about survival there, given how narrow the circuit is. But I reckon if he maintains this pace, we definitely might have a bit of an early favourite in the season. But of course, it's only round number 2. We've got a lot of rounds to go. And therefore, right now, for Mark Carlsbad, understandably, he'll be thinking one thing at a time, and that is take the results from round to round. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got more interviews to come, and we'll be back very shortly for our next interview. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we carry on the theme of winners, because we've heard from Kudo Academy's Inter winner, and now we come to your winner in the Pro category. It is none other than Philip Ansell, who joins me in the interview room. Philip, good evening to you once again. A win in round number 1, a very much controlled win when your teammate didn't make it onto the grid. Here today, a teammate did make it onto the grid in the form of Isaac Fairweather, but still, you look to be just about in control. How's that for you?
Well, I mean, control and control. I mean, it was a very different feeling when, especially at the start of the race. I mean, obviously towards the end of the first stint, I got a bit of a gap when Isaac made a bit of a mistake. So we said, I might as well just push on ahead and then see if we can get anything out of it. And I mean, it worked out well for me in the end. But the tow in these cars are, yeah, like nothing else. It didn't matter if I pushed. I lost 3/10. If I saved fuel, well, I lost 3/10. So it was just about managing the pace enough to the point where we could still stay ahead of Wilson, who was very quick tonight as well, especially in that first stint. And just try and manage the gap, manage the fuel, because we had to save a little bit just to make that extra lap. So we were safe to the end as well. And then, of course, it was the debate whether or not to take tyres or not. We saw some drivers deciding to opt for the risk of, losing 30 seconds in the pits to change tyres. So it was a very last second decision not to. Worked out in the end. So, but no, definitely way easier in the second stint. Unfortunately for Isaac, he picked up both a drive-through and a disqualification in the end. So, but, I know he'll come back stronger. So it's just to work on the few things. And then, we'll see what happens in Bathurst.
Oh, undoubtedly. And from your perspective, if we break it down, that pole lap in qualifying, 3.7 tenths quicker than anybody else. I mean, were you surprised at how far ahead you were?
To be honest, I was surprised I got a lap in, because, I mean, the lap itself wasn't brilliant. There was definitely way more time to be found. But considering the circumstances of, the track layout here at Imola, and with the fact that we had 52 cars out on track, it was just about, trying to get a lap in that was semi-competitive. And I mean, in my case, I got lucky to be out at the right time to get a lap in. I did get a bit of an improvement at the end, but obviously it's always a surprise when you are that, clear in qualifying, but 3/10 is still a gap. So, and, but we saw in the race where, it's a completely different story. Wilson was challenging both me and Isaac all the way, basically, until there was a bit of traffic and a little bit of a mistake on his part. So, but yeah, no, I mean, obviously very happy with the qualifying, but it could have been way different if there was a bit more traffic on my part, I would say.
Oh, most definitely. And coming on, you naturally helped me segue there onto the race start. Now, when you were about to go green, we did see Wilson New practically hug you on the right-hand side of your car. I mean, were you surprised that he pretty much was running door-to-door with you before you went green? You sort of, you know what, I expected this. We're going to go, we're going to try and drop him, because Isaac did manage to squeeze between the two of you.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I'm here to race for myself as well. Obviously, he's my teammate, but we work together for as a goal as a team to try and score maximum points. But I mean, again, it was like no communications in that sense between us when to go, because we just go on the green anyway. So, but it was important that I had the inside line into turn 1. Obviously, it helped him also to get on the inside of Wilson, seeing as he had not only the optimal line for turn 1, but he also had my toe. So, I mean, it worked out very well for us in that sense. But, it's tough racing. Wilson has to try and do everything he can to, get ahead of Isaac. So, but, it worked out in our favor this time. So, yeah.
Worked out nicely at the start then, and as you mentioned earlier on, really the first stint being about yourself trying to lead the race with Isaac following you closely and Wilson you as well. As we did see things split out, of course, there was the question of taking tyres in the pits, but we also got to see that once again, much like I do believe at Sebring, running the fuel tank the full distance, albeit, was that a decision you'd already planned, or were you thinking about perhaps can we undercut at some point?
No, I mean, in these cars, and in particular, in the GT cars and iRacing, doesn't matter if it's GT3 or GTE, you want to try and run the fuel as low as possible, unless, there was a lot of traffic. In my case, leading the race, I didn't have that much, traffic around me. Saw some people maybe opting to pit a lap or two early, but from my part, it was all about just managing the pace, managing the tank as long as possible to minimize the time spent idle in the pits. It was basically just pretty straightforward on for me. Just do whatever you do, just keep it on track. Don't keep the tires under control, and fuel save what you have to do to make the extra lap.
Oh, without doubt. And in the end, you clearly did everything you needed to do, because after the pit stop, we saw you come back out and in the end just gradually grow the lead. Unfortunately, it was the disqualification penalty for Isaac Fairweather for the instant points, but for yourself at least, back-to-back victories, and this time by 12 seconds over Wilson Liu. It's 2 from 2. I do have to ask, what's the plan for Bathurst? Do you think you can make it 3 from 3?
I mean, obviously, it does bring confidence, but we saw a few of the guys that were, fighting at the front as well last week and not turn up today. So, I mean, it's all about, maximizing qualifying, I think, and then having a bit of luck, perhaps getting a gap at the start, because the toes is that crazy in these cars. So, I mean, anything can happen. I'll have to wait and see. I've got football then next Friday, so I'm going to be last minute back to the grid. So we shall see if I even make the grid, but I hope I'll be here anyway for next weekend. Oh, sorry, for next week. No, I mean, if the practice comes in, I think the Corvette is going to be pretty good around there as well. So might see some other guys also be up towards the front. So, but I mean, obviously, I do believe in myself and I do believe in the pace. But as I said last week, you got to stay humble. Don't get too big of an ego just because you've won 2 races. It's just a matter of focusing on one race at a time. We've got 10 races, I believe, in this championship. So, just focus on doing what I did today in 1 week's time, basically.
Oh, fair play. I love that. Stay humble, because like you say, whilst you've won 2 races, it could all change next time out. And we do hope we get to see you on the grid, limited at practice time or not, because it's not quite the same if we don't have our leading CUDA motorsport driver out there. But just before I do get ready to let you go, before I sort of ask the question of is there anyone you want to give a shout out, because it is Easter this weekend, what's your favourite chocolate if you're going to have any chocolate at Easter?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, here in Sweden, we don't really have the ones you got in the UK, but I mean, just casual milk chocolate is the best one for me, I would say. You can't go wrong with a bit of milk chocolate.
Oh, fair play. I'll agree with you on that one. And lastly, Philip, if there's anyone you would like to give a shout out or a thank you to, you're welcome to do so.
Yeah, he did enjoy it last time, so he gets another one then, Jacob, our team manager. So you better pay me for this one. It's 2 from 2 now, so. But of course, I would say just my family for enabling me to do this hobby, I would say.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Philip, it's been an absolute joy to speak to you once again. Congratulations on making it 2 wins in a row in the Pro class today. Well, it may have been a bit of a tough start to the race, but in the end, you pulled through and look strong out there. We look forward to seeing if you can make it 3 from 3 in Australia in a week's time. But until then, we'll have a wonderful rest of your evening. Savour the result and have a great Easter weekend ahead.
Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you for the stream. Very well done there, mate.
It's my pleasure. So here now, ladies and gentlemen, from Philip Ansell, the CUDA Motorsport driver, enjoying himself out there today. No doubt about it. And well, the one thing that's noticeable, the way he's talked about it and keeping it in perspective. Yes, the headlines would say 2 wins in a row and a 12.5 second win day today, because ahead of Wilson Liu, it looks a dominant margin. But contextualise it, and these pictures really show it. The opening stint, until Fairweather and Liu started to really battle, that gap was not pronounced. The 3 were following each other very comfortably, and it was only towards the end of the opening stint where the gap started to grow. And well, that reminds a real stark reminder of the fact next time out at Bathurst, you can't get complacent. You can't just assume because you've won 2 races, you're going to win a 3rd one. And for Philip Ansell, I do like the way he's really framing everything right now. I think he's really got that mindset, which is you take 1 round at a time. And here today, got it right with the team, although it's interesting to hear from both him and also none other than the Kudu Academy winner in the interclass of Mark Halsbear, talking about the fact that in the end there was that big question, do they take tyres or not? But in the end protected the car nicely, didn't need to take the tyre change, just took the fuel. And we'll explain there as well the fact when to go as long as possible on the first stint, you always want the lightest possible car for the optimum lap time, unless you think there's a way of undercutting into a very safe space. But there was no need to do that today given how crowded the circuit was, and getting absolutely right our 348 driver. But can he get it right to make it a turkey of wins? Well, we'll see in a week's time at Bathurst, around where we hope we'll see him on the grid. But we've got more interviews to come, ladies and gentlemen, and well, our third interview is just around the bend. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for our third interview, we're going to stay in the Pro class, but joining me now in the interview room is none other than Davidas Loinonis. Davidas, good evening to you, and what a fun day you've had today. 13th is where you started in Pro, but by the end of it, 10th, and constantly throughout, enjoying a good battle with Taos Vosberg. How was that race for you, good sir?
It was, hello, it was great, and yeah, I mean, it was quite difficult because I hate Imola. It's a bad track, but I managed to survive with one incident point left before disqualification, so I'm quite happy with that.
Oh, goodness me. Well, so close to getting disqualified. Good thing you didn't get disqualified, because otherwise we wouldn't get the chance to talk to you. But just before we talk a bit more about Imola, car choice of the season, a lot of drivers have gone with the Porsche, obviously. You've gone with the BMW. Why is it? And secretly, I love the BMW, so feel free to talk greatly about it.
Personally, I don't really like BMW, but, you know, in my team, I'm quite known as some kind of a terrorist, you know, so I terrorize people in races. I gather all the incident points available, so BMW is just a choice for me, you know. It's the perfect car to cause crashes and disturb everyone's races and try to get past as many people as fast as possible.
Oh, goodness me. What interesting reason for picking the car, but living up to your reputation, perhaps. Still, with the car and here at Imola today, 18th in qualifying, 13th in class. Were you happy with your qualifying lap?
Personally, yeah, I don't think I could have done better because I didn't have much to practice because I had an English exam this week. So, yeah, just started practicing this evening. So I'm pretty happy with where I ended up.
Oh, fair play. Well, it's good to hear that you're able to get the practice in and a solid lap from yourself. Going into the race then, we did see in the early stages you enjoying a good number of battles with pro drivers as well as inter drivers. I mean, it looks as though for yourself, anybody's in front of you, you're going to have a battle with them, regardless of their class.
Yeah, I mean, I race in this league not just to battle because I'm just looking for fun battles, and I don't really care what class they are in. I just want a good fight, and also, like, I don't know how the class is called. It's intermediate, How do I say it?
Inter, so you're spot on.
Oh yeah, so yeah, inter class is quite fast, so it's also fun to race against, and yeah, we are quite a big competition. And I think overall position for me is more important than in class one. But yeah, I just race wherever I meet on the track.
Oh, fair play. I like that philosophy. I think it's a good one to have, and it shows in the way that you've enjoyed the driving out there and the way you're driving the car. As the race went on, very busy circuit, strategy. Did you go with the strategy you had planned, or did you have to change it?
My strategy was to not get disqualified in this race because I knew Imola is very harsh on incident points. So I just tried to not gather incident points, and I was not successful. So I ended up just pitting normally. I didn't save any fuel, any tires, so I think I was one of the earlier guys to pit. But yeah, I didn't have a strategy at all, so I just put max fuel in my fuel tank and just carried on.
Oh, that's fair. And, well, in doing so, to be fair, taking the worries of strategy out the way, plenty of battles out there, although in the end, you couldn't quite find a way to beat Vosberg. The two of you were constantly nose to tail over the race distance. He just seemed to have that slight edge over you.
Yeah, I was quite in front of him, but I got a drive-through since because of 18 incident points, and I came out behind him, but I couldn't find the pace because the car was starting not to turn, and I just made mistakes, and I was behind one more car, so I only got up at the end, and it was too late. So good for him to survive me.
Well, he may have just survived you, but still, 14th place overall, a solid result. And next time out, we make our way to Bathurst. What's the plan for the Australian circuit?
I mean, 60 cars on one grid, so I think just surviving like the first few laps is going to be a big accomplishment. And of course, maybe just don't die probably, because also driving in the BMW, it's easy to just lose control for no reason sometimes. So I just hope to survive. I don't know. I don't want anything more. That's fine for me.
Oh, fair play. I think surviving on the mountain is going to be the #1 goal of many of your fellow drivers, so you won't be alone there. But just as we do get ready to let you go for the evening, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
Shout out to Vosberg, because after the drive-through, I really wanted to catch him, so that gave me motivation to push very hard and improve my lap times, and of course almost catch him. Not quite, but still.
Oh, fair play. Well, Davidas, it's been an absolute blast catching up with yourself and having an interview today. Congratulations on your top 15 finish. A well-deserved result, and you survived. You made sure you didn't get a disqualification, which is always great. We'll see you at Bathurst in a week's time. But until then, well done once again, and have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. See ya.
Well, speaking to none other than Davidas Lorinonis there, ladies and gentlemen, for SRB Motorsport by Lint Vega. I do love the reason why he's picked the BMWs, because he has a reputation amongst his teammates of being a very aggressive driver. I labelled a terrorist there, and that's the coin that he's used for himself. We're not calling that, we should be clear. But indeed, they're going with a BMW, and the big, bold and brash BMW will definitely seem to be one of those cars that not to say has a reputation for bad drivers necessarily, but definitely has a reputation of being a car that is loud and proud, much like perhaps the reputation that Lorinonis has built up for himself. But to be fair to him, if he's had an English exam or preparing for it, well, I think he definitely passed that absolutely brilliant interview there. I'm sure many of you would agree. And we're talking about there the fact he's not here to worry about class. He's here to have a good time, enjoy the racing, and battle with anybody he sees. He's focusing on overall position, and to go from 18th to 14th over the distance with a drive-through penalty, that goes to show you how far he's come today. And he was very grateful there in the end to Taos Vosberg for the fact that the 307 driver encouraged him to push more and more, and actually helped improve his lap times and saw some personal bests towards the very end. So he's had a good day, and well, at Bathurst, his game plan is going to be survive. If he can do that on a grid of 50 or so cars, I think he's going to be feeling very positive by the end of it, and everyone's got their own story to tell, and for a 324 driver, he's just here to have fun and not worry about the points, and sometimes that's the best way to race. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one more interview to come, and this man has been waiting for a bit of time. We're right back to introduce him. I promise you one thing, it's going to be a brilliant interview to come. And so, ladies and gentlemen, they normally say you leave the best till last. In this case, I think he's going to feel as though he's had his best result of the season by far, because joining me now in the interview room is none other than Gareth Newton. Good evening to you, Gareth, and well, what a result for you today. The second of a 1-2 in the GPX Supersport team in the club class, behind your teammate James Bostock, but then going from 6th to 2nd. I mean, you must be absolutely proud of yourself.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. I much prefer the GTs over the GT3s. But yeah, I mean, when we got up to, we were running 1, 2, 3 at one point before Brian got disqualified. And yeah, I'd have happily checker flagged the race halfway just to lock that in. So, but yeah, really pleased with it.
Oh, fantastic. Now, before we go any further in your race, I just want to talk about car choice for a brief moment. We've seen you go with the Corvette C8R for this season. Why is that?
I tried the Porsche, and I couldn't gel with it. I mean, by my own admission, I do overdrive into the corners, and I just find the Corvette a bit more forgiving for me than the Porsches.
Oh, fair play. A more forgiving car, and to be fair, going exactly with what Pratt & Miller and G&M Motorsport aimed that Corvette at when they made it. But with that, when we did go to the tarmac today for qualifying, 41st overall, 6th in class, it was a very tight club field if you ignore the pole lap set by Mark Kent. Were you happy with your qualifying lap?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't always qualify particularly well. So yeah, I was happy with that, and I got up to, I think we were running 4th within a couple of laps. So yeah, absolutely happy with that.
Well, happy with the qualifying lap, and then, like you say, you made very early progress in the race quite quickly, so you were up to 4th. I mean, were you perhaps surprised how quickly you were moving forward, given the fact we have seen the Porsche seems to be very good here at Imola with the low-speed traction, but that Corvette, it seems to go quite well as a whole.
It does. I think I've got consistency more than speed on my side. I don't think there were many genuine overtakes. It was more people falling off and having interactions with the scenery rather than me actually passing them. So yeah, I just benefited from them having incidents, really.
Well, sometimes that's the way you've got to go. You just got to be consistent and let your rivals make the mistakes. And then coming back to the point you made earlier, midway through the race, yourself, James, and also Brian running 1, 2, 3 for GPX. Well, I mean, it must have all been looking quite golden. Did that perhaps help you relax a little bit and think, you know what, there's not any pressure on us now?
You'd say so normally, except I didn't think I'd have enough fuel to get to the end. So I was, after the pit stop, my calculator said I was going to be about 5 litres short, so my lap times dropped. That allowed John Becker to reel me in, and when he caught me, the calculator was saying I'd just have enough fuel, but I thought there's no point fighting him, I'll let him go. I thought he might have had to stop for fuel because he clearly hadn't been fuel saving, and then he got a drive through, so it kind of gifted me second. So a bit gutted for John, but hey ho, that's racing.
Oh, 100%. To be fair, racing gives and racing takes, and we did think you might have been saving some fuel given how quickly you was catching up, but thank you for confirming. So in the end, second place, your best result of the season so far, and a very well-driven one. How are you looking on instant points? Because that's been a really big talking point today. So many drivers receiving drive-through penalties, or even quite a few being disqualified.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we lost Brian. We were in for a 1, 2, 3, and we lost him through disqualified. I finished on 13, and yeah, I mean, part of the fuel saving, it did give me the opportunity to stay away from off tracks. Although I did make a couple of silly mistakes, but yeah, it doesn't take much. It's easily done there.
Oh, without a doubt. Small mistakes, they quickly add up to something much more tragic. But for yourself today, they didn't add up. Second place is what you take. Great result there, a podium. I mean, you must have been grinning as you came out the final corner to see that checker flag, thinking you've done it and you're bringing it on home as part of a 1-2.
Yeah, honestly, my backside was going like a rabbit's nose. But yeah, really happy with that.
Oh, fantastic. And well, with this result today, can we expect another podium from yourself when we see you take on Mount Panorama next round?
I'll give it a go. No promises, but yeah, always have a go.
Oh, that's the spirit, and we look forward to seeing you give it a go in a week's time at Bathurst. But just before we do let you go, firstly, as Easter is just around the corner, I have to ask, for Easter, what's your favourite chocolate?
It's got to be Cadbury's Crunchy.
Oh, fair play, fair play. I think that's a good choice, to be fair, to have around what will be the Easter eggs and whatnot. And from the Cadbury country, lastly, I do have to ask, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, James for putting the GPX guys together. Andy Fellows was acting as spotter. He had issues early on, so he parked in the pit lane, and he was really good, giving us sort of relatives of where we were, and yeah, it just helped a lot.
Well, like you say, a big shout out to Andy there for, whilst the race didn't go right for him, helping yourself and the team having your races go right. I'm sure he'll be very grateful for that shout out. But Gareth, it's been an absolute blast having you join me in the interview room. Congratulations on your first podium of the season today. We look forward to seeing whether you can make it another podium next time out at Bathurst. But until then, savour the result, have a lovely rest of your evening, and we will catch you in round number 3.
Cheers, Paul. Take care. Thanks.
So hearing there from a very happy Gareth Newton for GPX SimSport Vertex, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, really, again, I do love the way that several interviews so far this season have really contextualised the interviews. And whilst they're very pleased with their results, they also put things in perspective. His perspective today was he wasn't the fastest driver out there, but he knew what he needed to do. And also, most importantly, he was the most consistent out there when it came to batting for the run-up spot in the club class. And, well, in qualifying, was happy with that given the fact he was able to launch his way up the order, getting to 4th quite early on, then to 3rd, and part of a 1-2-3 for GPX SimSport in club, until we saw Brian Beardsworth disqualified from the race due to instant points, and it was a 1-2. I'm also talking about there the fact that he was on 13 instant points, but his bigger worry was not the instant points, it was the fact that he was looking to be tight on fuel. So he lost a lot of pace to John Becker in the closing stages. Becker took that 2nd place off him, but then picked up a drive-through penalty of his own, and therefore gave the place back. So for Gareth Newton, really embodying the spirit to finish first you must finish, and doing that perfectly. And, well, if he can make it another result like that at Bathurst, definitely leading the way with GPX SimSport. And, well, the GPX SimSport teams looking very strong in the club class right now after Bostock's victory, making it 2 from 2, but Newton taking that first podium, and he'll be pleased as punch with that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, well, we wrap up our interviews there. And who exactly did we interview today? Here's a quick reminder. We started off in the interclass there, speaking to our interclass winner of Cuda Academies, Mark Carlsberg, and having an absolutely brilliant run there, but also being quite modest about it in the fact that he surprised himself a little bit with his qualifying lap, but in the end absolutely delivered a well-managed race. We then spoke to your pro class winner, making it 2 from 2 for Cuda Motorsport, and it was Philip Ansell, once again there, talking about the challenges today, particularly with regards to the pressure that was on him early on from Wilson Yu and also Isaac Fairweather, being able to withstand the test of them as they spent more time battling each other rather than focusing on them battling him down. Then we came to Devidas Lorenonis, who gave us a bit of an update with regards to where exactly he stands when it comes to what he's trying to achieve from the season, and all about battling for overall position. And the SRB Motorsport by Lindvega pro driver enjoying himself out there and having a good day in his BMW. And then we've just come to Gareth Newton for GPX SimSport Vertex, the club class driver there, absolutely pleased as punch with 2nd place, a first podium of the season, and part of a 1-2 for the GPX SimSport teams, and long may it continue. He's planning for that to happen as long as he can, but of course, he's got plenty of roles in the club class to be very eager to take those podiums off his hands next time out at Bathurst. So well done to all 4 of our drivers for their respective performances, and a big thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room, and we look forward to plenty more interviews next time out. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about how you can be on the grid at SimRacing International, well, to do that and plenty more, all you need to do is join the official SRI Discord. Invite link at the bottom of your screen, and in doing so, you're going to be joining one of the up-and-coming and most friendly and welcoming communities. That whilst we are based in the United Kingdom, we are open to everybody around the world, whether you are based in the United Kingdom, on the European continent, America, Asia, you name it, you're more than welcome to be on the grid with us. And when you do join the grid, well, here's a selection of series that we do have on offer. We have our Thursday evening GT3 series, our premier series, which does run every week. I'm currently in its 12th season with the reformatted Masters and Superstars categories. Alternatively, if you're more of a Friday evening racer and you love your GTE machines like you've seen today, of course, you've been tuning into Season 2 of the GTE Championship, and long may it continue with us. Alternatively, on Sundays, if you're a bit more of a weekend racer, of course, we do have you covered with the Sunday Showdown, the UK SimRacing GT3 Championship in its 18th season. But if you're looking for something far more casual, something free to join on a weekly basis, perhaps you're a rookie and you want to build up your confidence experience in league racing, or perhaps you just want to be able to relax a little bit more, well, we do have our practice league, which runs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. So there's never been a better time to be on the grid at SimRacing International, and we're very grateful to have you join us, whether you're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie racer. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include, of course, CarMate, Modern Technology, the GP2 Group, and lastly, we must give a shout out to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But with that, ladies and gents, we go to the beyond now of round number 3, because that's all we've got for round number 2. And next time out, we won't be in Europe. We will be down under in Australia for the Mount Panorama Motor Racing Circuit, more commonly referred to as Bathurst in reference to a local town. Our drivers need to take on the mountain of Mount Panorama, and come the end of a grand total of 60 minutes of racing, there's going to be one question that needs to be answered. Who will be our kings of the mountain in the Pro, Inter and Club classes? So far, after 2 rounds in Pro, it seems though Philip Ansell may be in a degree of control, but to be fair, he said that don't expect him to be winning every race, even though he's won 2 so far, and therefore we won't hold him to it. Meanwhile, in the Interclass, we've seen things shaken up with a new winner today in the form of Mark Kelsbear, albeit we did see was a return to the podium once again for Vidas Andruskevicius after his win at Sebring, so it's all looking square between them. And in the club class, James Bostock is on a run of victory so far. Can anybody slow him down? We'll come tune in next time on Friday the 10th of April 2026 as we catch all the racing action live from circuit side as it happens, and we continue to find out how the story of the season goes. But until then, we've been SimRacing International. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, have a happy Easter, ladies and gentlemen, and remember, most importantly, as always, to stay on track. Good night.